I got comments every single day making fun of me for the fact that I have lip filler. Now that I don't have lip filler, and I got a lot of it dissolved, I get comments telling me to get lip filler.
Was Kylie Jenner crying when she saw the impression she made on 13-year-old girls who were sucking on shot glasses to get big lips like hers, only to be sent to the hospital with sometimes permanent damage? That's the only reason you made money, and you expect us to feel bad for you?
People want you to be beautiful, but you can't be like, oh yeah, like I go to Sephora every single day, because then you're trying too hard. So you have to criticize the beauty standards, but also embody them. We jump to criticize the makeup guru girlies. We jump to criticize the girl that got a BBL 3 times. But at the end of the day, it's like, no.
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I am one of your hosts, Autumn, like the season. I'm wearing a skirt right now with no panties, and that's just the way I like it. And I work in entertainment.
And I'm your other host, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I'm having a Carrie Bradshaw moment right now, and I work in social media and marketing.
If you guys are new here to the podcast, what we do is we explore duality through deep diving topics all about sex, relationships, and personal identity, all where internet trends and reality collide. We do post polls and really want y'all to submit stories for the episode, so you can do that on our Instagram at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros. We do that for every episode we ever post. And right now, real quick, we'd really appreciate it if y'all took the time to subscribe, follow, whether on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. You can rate us on some platforms, leave a written review on Apple exclusively. It really helps, and it takes literally 5 seconds. If you're listening on YouTube, you can click our Spotify link in the description. Head over there. We have listener support. You can rate us, follow us. It would mean so much. So just go do that real quick and come back. Today, we're talking about the pursuit of beauty, our culture's beauty obsession, beauty sickness, the allure of effortlessness when it comes to beauty, the double bind of beauty, and so much more.
Yes, but before we get into all that, we're going to start the episode as we always do, talking about what we're so wet and so dry about in this very moment. So I'll go first. Like I said, I'm having a Carrie Bradshaw moment right now, guys. Like, I went through another, breakup, but it's not even a breakup because it was a situationship that lasted over a year. But, I really feel like this time is the end. I had, a really good therapy appointment. And I feel, sad but, motivated, you know? We had a really good talk about, I just usually go back into the same cycles of partying and I work out now. I'm healthier in a lot of ways than I used to be, but I'm not doing enough socially that's feeding me and meeting more people like me.
Yeah.
So I really want to do that. I downloaded Eventbrite. They have an app, and I was looking at arts and cultures events. So I'm going to an Audre Lorde library event on Tuesday.
You're gonna meet smart ass people.
Right. It's so Emerson, and I'm I feel like I used to not want to do those things. I was oh, that's nerdy, that's not cool, whatever. But that's what I'm into. It helps the podcast. I want to meet people that are like that. So catch me at the library, catch me at the thrift store, catch me growing myself in new ways now, you know?
And I feel like it's wet that the cycle's not invisible anymore, because I feel like there was a time where you couldn't really see it or get it, and now you're oh my God, I'm seeing it so clear. So that's huge, bro.
Yes.
I love that. This week I'm so wet because I've been having some sex dreams about people. I had a sex dream about my delusional crush online that I always talk about. And then I also had a sex dream about Jade Fox, who's a content creator on all the platforms, super hot. But yeah, my dreams have been hitting, so visual, so sexual. And it's obviously just because I've been celibate for over a year. But honestly, the dreams just inspire and reassure me that I still am that bitch. I feel in the dreams I'm acting accordingly, how I would move honestly in real life. So yeah.
Yes. I love that. I am so dry. Honestly, sometimes I wish like the dries went first before the wet, because I feel like the reason that I'm having this like moment where I want to do stuff is not just the like breakup situationship ending, but like the rest of my life, like every area has been absolute hell for the past 3 weeks, like between work, even just like financial shit, like fucking health insurance. I almost like couldn't have therapy. Shout out to my therapist for like lowering the price. But like I've just been like a stressed fucking mess, and I started to like regress mentally. I was like having sleep paralysis, like bad dreams. Like I was just not like okay. And I think I don't think I would have done anything about it though if the situationship thing hadn't ended. So I'm like, I'm not trying to like linger in it, but I'm just like realizing how like I can get really fucking stressed, and I don't like let myself be stressed sometimes, or actually do things that are gonna like change the position I'm in versus just like temporary fixes.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
I
And
don't
that's
know.
part
I'm
of the
looking
cycle
forward.
too. Like
Exactly.
and it's exhausting. Fiji's really had a rough 3 weeks, y'all. It's been crazy. Like I've honestly been at a loss for words. Like I don't know what to say anymore.
We just meet and I just start bawling my eyes out because the grocery
I'm like,
order didn't
yeah,
have everything.
Bro, I know. That was so
It was
sad.
just rough.
That was your breaking point. I'm so dry, kind of about the same reason. Like I just feel like we were both talking the other day, like we're in very transitional parts of our lives. Like we're 26. It really is giving like quarter life crisis a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, I've been saying it for the past 6 months, but I seriously am looking to not work in what I'm working in anymore.
Yeah.
And like I'm willing to like be customer service to like not do it. Like I just can't anymore.
Sexy barista.
Barista, I know. But you give me this dream. I have no experience though.
You were a hostess back in the day. Like
Okay,
you've had
yeah.
other jobs. I mean, even the job you just had, skills apply.
I'm telling you, skills
you
apply.
can't make coffee really, but like you would be a cashier, right?
Yeah,
like you would grab the Danish, like
the Danish
say hello.
Yeah. No, but seriously, I honestly feel like that's the move. And going to the Audre Lorde library event and like even the other panels that you showed me, I feel similarly, and there's a block in me doing the things that make me happy. And for me, honestly, it's dance. Like I miss dance. Like it's so weird how like you have these hobbies growing up, and then you kind of like if it doesn't turn into a job, it's like you throw it away or you fight to prioritize it. And so fun fact about me, guys, I started dancing when I was 2, and I danced all the way till like mid college. So like I was 20, 21. Once I started smoking cigarettes, it kind of went out the window, but I loved to dance. Well, you were
stripping. It was in a different environment.
Different type of dance, exactly. Yeah. So I'd love to just explore dance more, and we just need to do what makes us happy. But the real tea is, like, no one has time because we have to pay bills.
And like, money.
It's exhausting.
For classes. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. But let's get into the episode. The reason you guys are really here. And as we said, we're going to talk about the pursuit of beauty. So what the fuck is that? We're going to start by defining it and kind of defining beauty in general. Like, I know it's a little corny, but like, honestly, it's kind of tea. Like we all have different perceptions. We all know beauty is subjective. So the Google definition of the pursuit of beauty is: the pursuit of beauty can encompass not only physical appearance, but also the appreciation of art, nature, and aesthetics, which can be deeply enriching. Enhancing one's appearance can boost self-confidence and well-being, leading to personal empowerment. So basically, to me, the pursuit of beauty is just constantly having that in your mind and wanting to constantly be more beautiful or fit into different aesthetics and just be on this journey of like always trying to be more beautiful. And age obviously plays into that. It becomes more intense as you get older, especially as women, because it's all like looks fade, blah, blah, blah. Like everyone says that. But I don't know. I kind of want to just start with talking about what beauty means for us, and also ask you like, what is kind of your first experience like growing up with beauty, whether it was positive or negative, like something where you're like, oh, like I feel so cute in this dress, or, you know, a parent said to you, you have to cover that up, or, you know, something. It could be negative or positive. Can you think of anything?
I think for me, definitely like when I was like really young, I did dance too for like a very couple years. So that was the first time I really wore makeup. And I remember thinking it was like cool, but like really uncomfortable. And then because I also went to Catholic school, like we could only have small stud earrings, one necklace, one bracelet, no makeup, like no colored hair, nothing. So it wasn't really an option for me. But I remember when I went to like public school and I started to like become a preteen, like my mom was always like, she was always very open to like letting me explore makeup and like showing me what to wear and what not. And like in the early 2000s, remember like lipstick and like lip gloss like weren't as much of a thing. It was like very like foundation as fuck. Dude. But then like not like putting a color on your lips. So I remember my mom always being like, you need a color on your lips, like you need a color on your lips. But like I do remember like my mom like helping me, like we would go to the mall and go to Clinique because she had her little points or whatever and get her little stuff, and she like showed me how to put foundation on and like all that stuff. So like once she showed me and I was in public school, like 7th grade, like I was wearing makeup pretty consistently. Nothing crazy, but like definitely, you know, face makeup.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so crazy to think about. I feel like my first positive experiences, I was lucky, and I feel like my mom would tell me like, you're beautiful inside and out and things like that, like love your body, like oh my God. She still says that shit. But I feel like the negative one is I remember like the 5th grade dance. Like we're in elementary school. There's no dances. But in 5th grade in the summer when you're going to 6th grade, there's a dance for all the 5th graders. And I was coming from the dancer side of which I looked crazy. Like I took my hair out of a tight ass bun, whipped it down, and like my style, like my mom always had me dressing different. And now I'm so grateful. But back then I stuck out like crazy. I was wearing like a long green maxi dress, which like sounds cool now, but back then like no one was wearing that shit. Like people were wearing like jean shorts, like honestly already at that age or whatever. And I feel like that's the first time I realized that maybe I'm not like beautiful to guys, because I remember my best friend growing up, everyone wanted to dance with her. Like she was bombarded, that like those dudes were obsessed with her. And, like, no one wanted to dance with me. And it's so funny because, and this is sad, but she did end up having some sort of anxiety attack because the guys, like, wouldn't leave her alone. But, like, me and the outskirts, I'm like, we can dance, though. Like, because I'm like, but I feel like that was when I realized, like, okay, like, people don't think I'm pretty because, like, all the other schools were there. And it was, like, a big moment. So that was, like, kind of my first negative. But I don't know. With makeup, it's weird, too, because I feel like my mom never really, not that she wasn't good at makeup, but like I did her makeup like from when I was younger. I don't know.
Okay. I do remember my mom, like one thing she told me when I was like younger that I like never forgot was that like once you start wearing makeup, like when you don't wear it, everyone's gonna ask if you're okay and if you're tired or what's wrong with you. And it's so fucking true, because I remember like once you get into high school and like whatever, like days where you wake up late and you're fucking tired and you don't wear makeup, everyone's like, are you good? Like what's wrong with you? Like,
that crazy?
You know? And it's like, no, that's just like my natural like face or whatever.
No,
and like
type shit. It's crazy. And I think for defining beauty, like I feel like this is cliche, like everyone would say this, but beauty to me like really is confidence. Like if you guys listen to the podcast, we talk about how my type is all over the place, and I really think it's because I just like feed off energy. But like I don't know, and I think beauty to me, like I'd be lying if it said it wasn't looking like a bad bitch, you know, like someone like Meg the Stallion, or like I do consider that sort of like bad bitch, baddie core beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Like, did that come from me? Did that come from somewhere else? And like we talk about beauty with nature and aesthetics, like, you know, the ocean, like it's so much, you know, and I think when people show their emotions and are vulnerable, I think that's beautiful.
And that's what because when you first were saying like beauty and stuff, and then I was like, okay, no, like the episode is more about, you know,
I'm like
physical.
Stallion.
But like I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think it's just because I was on Eventbrite looking for art events and like whatever, and then there was one where it's like, you can go tell a story or something, and there's a theme, like the theme is like space, and I was like, oh, I should do this.
Nice.
Like, you know, instead of
You
spoken
get
word
up there
poetry,
and tell the story?
you get up there and tell, like,
Please
similar to
film
like
it.
what I would have done at Emerson. Yeah. But I was thinking, like, I'm back when I was at Emerson writing like poetry and writing more, like everything is like beautiful. Like, you know, you're finding beauty out of things and you're creating art out of them. And when I think of like beauty with like women and people, I do think it's a much more like natural thing. Like the word beautiful, I think natural, and I think that type of naturey stuff. But if I think of like baddie core stuff, I think more like hot.
Yeah.
Like bad bitch. Like they're different to me.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
me, like completely naked, like no makeup, like
Yes.
laying on the sand in the beach, like
That's
like,
beautiful.
Yeah, like paint
Yeah.
me, bitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally feel that. And yeah, we are mostly talking about physical this whole episode, but I do think it's interesting to just kind of break that down. And it's so true. I feel like being in art spaces does teach you that there's so much, you know, beauty in the world. But of course, in the context of this episode, we are talking about what's that word? Conventional beauty standards and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how we can talk about that, but then if you really get down to it, you know, you ask, what is beauty really for yourself? And it's interesting that you said women and people, because the T is like beauty has this inherent feminine aspect to it.
Yes.
And there's a lot of articles out there, can men be beautiful, da-da-da. And it's like...
But I do think, because I, like, even... like with the last guy I was seeing, or guy, like men that I've been with in the past, when I'm like in love with them, like I think I do like have moments where I've been with them where I'm like, oh my God, like they are so beautiful.
Me too.
Like about like who they are as a person in this moment and what we're sharing, like that type of stuff. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've only been in love with one guy, but there was definitely times where like I would look at him and be like, damn, like you're pretty.
Yeah.
And especially I do like pretty boys type shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm gay with long hair. But yeah, it's really interesting because it's like I always say that all women are beautiful. Like you can find beauty within all women, but like for men, like I don't know, it's a little bit like
you have to love them.
I know that's fucked. Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. It's like you have to love them to be able to see that. You don't just walk outside and see the beauty in all men. And I think that's a problem, but I'm just acknowledging.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
But we asked our audience, do you feel like you are in pursuit of beauty? And it was very split. 57% said yes and 43% said no. And I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, I feel like we are in a generation of rebellion and people are trying to push away from wanting to be beautiful constantly. But I also think like maybe people are more than they think they are because it is a lot of subconscious things going on. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like we're also, because when I think about this, I'm like, when it comes to beauty, and it depends, like, is it makeup, is it Botox, is it your body, all of those things? Because I feel like for me, not as much, but I do feel like I'm constantly in the pursuit of, like, style. And I think, like, right now, the time that we're living in is very, like, you can have a lot of different styles and still be cool. Like you can shave your eyebrows, bleach them, dye your hair, wear crazy eyeliner, have piercings, like all this different stuff to play with your look.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and less than I used to be, but I do feel like I've always been in pursuit of like style and looking different. I think honestly more recently I've been the most okay with being more natural.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah, totally. And it's like, you know, it's even like being more natural. It's like in this like clean girl era times, it's like I would almost argue that you still are, you know, in pursuit. And I think that I definitely am as well. Like I am. And I'll be honest with you guys. I love like being beautiful is like a kink to me.
Yeah.
Like I love feeling beautiful and I love like doing beauty like things. But the question is like how much of that comes within me and how much of it has been ingrained within me that I just learned to love it over time. Right. And that's a question I do want us to answer because I meant to say this at the beginning, but a little disclaimer, there is so much content out about this topic and we really, really want to bring a different perspective. And a lot of the content is like, should women live in a pursuit of beauty? Is it wrong? Yes or no? But it's all about this middle ground, I think. And who's to blame. You know, there's a lot of that going on. So we're going to talk about all of it, but we do hope to offer something different. But the next thing we asked our audience, which kind of going in line with, you know, this beauty being maybe about nature and just about other things, like what would life look like if you were not in pursuit of beauty? And 50% said I'd prioritize other areas of my life more. 40% said I would eat whatever I want. 10% said I wouldn't take hours to get ready. And 0% said I'd have more time for cool hobbies. I feel like I voted for it wouldn't take me hours to get ready because I do feel like that's my biggest thing. Honestly, it doesn't matter where the fuck I'm going. It takes me 3 hours. Like, it takes me so long because I'm just like indecisive with things. The I would eat thing, whatever I want, did make me really sad. Just because I feel like part of me was like, oh yeah, that's me. But no, the fuck it's not, bitch. I literally eat whatever the fuck I want. That was me like maybe 4 years ago. Do I feel guilt about eating things? Yes. Yeah. But it's not stopping me, which I think is like growth, because we should eat whatever the fuck we want. And then prioritize other areas of my life more. I mean, I don't know, because I'm not necessarily like going to mad beauty appointments. Like I used to when I was a stripper. I would have my shit on lock because I had money. Like I could afford to get my hair and nails and wax and all that. Like,
and it was also part of your job kind of too.
Bitch. I'm like all these little cutesy outfits. But anyways, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm surprised it's not higher for the take hours to get ready.
It was just us, I guess, because I saw you voted for that too.
Yeah, because I'm like, I mean, honestly, on my day-to-day regular life, I work from home. I don't put makeup on. I have a tank top and like shorts. So like, I don't think it really affects like my daily life as much. But like, I like to do it. Like I like to get do my makeup. I like to get ready. Like I do think I spend a lot of time at appointments, like waxing, like nails, which I don't even have right now, hair, like all of that stuff. But I don't know, like it's funny because with the last guy that I was seeing like earlier this week, actually, he wanted to go to a bar like in the middle of the week. And I was like in my pajamas, like no makeup, like nothing. And he was like, no, let's go now. Like, let's bring the dog and go now. And I was like, no, I need to get ready. And we had this whole fucking conversation where he was like, no, like you're beautiful the way you are. You don't need that, da 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 da. And I was like, no, like I appreciate you for saying that, but it's also like, one, I have an appearance to maintain. Like I know these people out, and like I said before, they're gonna think something's wrong with you if you don't do your makeup. But two, like because I work from home so much, like I like to,
it's my chance.
And I listen to music, like it's a vibe to get ready. Like I feel hotter, like I feel more confident when I do it. It's so fun.
Like getting ready to like for this podcast, like I dread it, but at the same time, I get it.
Yeah. And it's a vibe. But one other thing, like now I don't think it's as bad, but back when we were at Emerson, which like we both weren't great at going to class and like sleeping all day and all that stuff. Like I would not go to class unless I had an outfit and my makeup done. And I think that really fucked with my life in a lot of ways, because I would wake up late. I would be like, oh, I don't have enough time to get ready. And then I just wouldn't go to class.
Yeah. And
you know,
that was kind of like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like freshman year, you would do that a little bit more, but it was more so like the following year. And I do think we went to Emerson College in Boston. Like we were the same year together. Mm-hmm. That's where we met, freshman year, and the rest is history. But that culture was very like, if you don't look cool, what the fuck? Like
it's
that
not
was
like a university.
If you don't look different, like we would go to class. I went to class one day in like 8-inch platform heels.
Mini skirts, fucking
like
platforms,
it was like
tights,
the
like
runway
eyeliner
type shit. That's the culture of our school. And it's like even in a place that it was a safe space to talk about, you know, mental health and all this stuff, it's like there was that. And when I hear you talking about your nails, it's like that goes with your style. Like you want the nails for your fit. So
and I have finger tattoos. Like
it's the whole thing. And it's like wanting to have a certain style and prioritizing your style is not a bad thing. But I would argue it's like, is that in the pursuit of beauty, or is she just like a fashionista? Like some people like to play tennis and she likes to have bad bitch outfits, you know? And it's like So it's just so much, like, beauty is so, so broad. Fiji found this quote from a New York Times article, and we really liked it. It says, "What I can tell you may not be exceptional, but it is the truth. The greatest moments of serenity I've had in my life are not the times when I felt beautiful, but when beauty was the furthest thing from my mind." So just going along with, like, what would life look like if we weren't in this constant pursuit? And I don't know. I kind of think it's tea. I really like it. It makes me feel good. But I would argue that I don't think like beauty needs to be so far away. Like I don't like to demonize beauty. And a lot of people online do, and some people aren't. But I personally don't think it helps to be like, that's the furthest thing from my mind. Like, it's like I burned my bra. Like, I don't know. It's like that sort of. So although it does make me feel good, I'm also like, I don't necessarily think that needs to be true for everyone.
Yeah, and it's different types of beauty, right? Because it's like, okay, so maybe I'm not focused on my outward appearance and I'm like, quote unquote, enjoying life more because I'm with like you and we don't have to like do our makeup to just hang out and have fun, or I'm with like the person that I'm seeing and they think I'm beautiful without it, or like all of that. So it's like the moment in itself is still like beautiful, but like I'm not focused on my appearance because I'm comfortable.
Right.
You know? So,
right.
And I do feel like there is something about being the most comfortable.
That's good to differentiate. Yeah. It's like, you can be thinking about beauty and living in a beauty space because you're like in a cool area with someone you love. But it's that when you're not thinking and feeling insecure about your appearance. Yes, I totally agree. So going off of that, I do want to propose the question, like, what would life be better when you're not in the pursuit of beauty? And I think for me, because of how much beauty makes me happy, I'm not sure. Do I think the world would be better without crazy standards? Of course. But I think for me personally, it does make me happy to like be in the pursuit to look my best and things like that. You know, I don't think it's so black and white like that.
Yeah, I don't know like what my life would be like. I do, and I feel like this sounds like narcissistic and like whatever, but I do remember being younger and being like seen as beautiful to boys and always kind of wishing that I was ugly, like in a weird because I don't really, you know what I'm saying? Like I like obviously like it's a privilege and like it's gotten me shit and like whatever, but I do remember thinking like if I wasn't seen as like beautiful and like those things, like would I be seen as smart, or would I like have different things to focus on, you know, like that type of stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, it's never been like I've always also actively tried to make myself prettier. So like, you know.
Yeah. It's so crazy because like boys didn't want me until high school. So like, because I was like different in middle school. Like I did not hang out with the quote unquote cool kids. Like I played Littlest Pet Shop in the library. Like I was like nerdy and like artsy. Like I would wear crazy clothes, and like that's when I wore my glitter eyeliner and everyone thought I was like crazy. Like no, people didn't want me. Like I was like too different. And then in high school I started to conform, and I became quote unquote attractive to the young men around me, and then I was like, oop, I'm gay. So it didn't even matter. Like it was exhausting, bro. Like,
but I feel you, because I remember even being in like middle school and like I always liked like goth whatever type music, like emo shit, but I remember being like, oh, because I was seen as pretty and popular and I was like new, that like I couldn't do the weird nerdy shit or like edgy shit that I wanted to, because I had an image to maintain. So like I feel like it's nice when you're younger and you don't give a fuck as much, like before that puberty shit hits and you're like whatever. But now what would honestly, like my day to day, like working remotely, like I
nothing
not
would change.
care. Our cameras are off. Like it's the same. So it's like beauty doesn't take up as much of my life as I think it used to.
Yeah. And this directly goes into what I want to talk about next. So I watched Shan Spear's video on YouTube called Our Obsession with Beauty is Dystopian. And she was like, you know, beauty's a complex subject. Like, what even really is it? It's a multitude of things. It's not just appearance. It's color. It's sounds. It's textures.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to say beauty is power. And this is what I was going to say. If you're not living in a pursuit of beauty as a woman day to day, you can't access that beauty is power mentality, that maybe people will take you more seriously if you look more beautiful and all of that. So she says beauty is power, but it's a conditional power that is not ours to have. It's usually for other people, typically men. If you define beauty by our culture's fucked standards, it's impossible to have for your entire life. Like, you can't be beautiful forever, that idea. And, you know, that sort of, our culture's fucked standards is conventional attractiveness, white women, blonde women, that sort of thing. And then Shan Spear put in a quote from an article that said, "There's always someone else in charge. It's a grotesque kind of power that begins to disappear just as a woman starts to find her footing in the world." So it's obvious that there's different, you know, beauty's a complex subject, like she said. So would life be better if we're not in the pursuit of beauty? For me personally, I don't think so. But if you're talking about these standards that we have and beauty being power and like wanting to access that power, I don't know if that's, you know, a good thing and what I want to do. Like, maybe that's the unlearning piece, but I want to keep like how I love beauty and feeling beautiful. It's so hard to explain. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, I think you're making sense. And like, for me, it's also because I'm thinking, like, I've been thinking a lot about what it means for me and myself internally, but like taking it outside of that and like thinking about how other people are like perceiving you and acting towards you and all of those things. Like, we live in such an online society that's like beauty and like filters and like all that shit is like such a big thing that when you go outside of the realm of what's like what's the norms of beauty, like, people are mean. And I was thinking this because I was scrolling on TikTok the other day and I saw this really pretty girl, like cool style, whatever. And it was just a cute video of her just kind of like standing there half dancing, half posing with like music. And it had like 1.2 million likes. But she didn't have like the body standard that is seen as beautiful by our society. Like, she had really thin legs and kind of like a bigger top. And people were so fucking mean in the comments. Like, I looked at the comments and people were like, "Oh my God, like, she looks like this character. Like, what is this shape? Like,
Why?
I would hate to have that." And like, that's the thing that's so fucked, because it's like, she is like a really pretty girl with cool style. Like, she thinks she looks good in this video. Like, she still has 1.2 million likes. Like, people still think she looks great. But people are also still hating on her because she doesn't fit the standard. And so it's like, it's so fucked, because it's like, no matter what you're gonna do, you're still like victim to what the rest of society thinks.
Yeah, you really helped me with that, because it's how you feel internally about beauty versus the external, how other people feel about it. Yeah. And that's the part of the pursuit of beauty that I obviously don't like. Like, it's like, she's looking cute. She did her makeup and her outfit. She's doing everything that she thinks she should do to be beautiful and post this. And then she just gets absolutely ridiculed, because if you're not in the conventional standards, even if you want to be free, be beautiful, and represent your own type of beauty, if it's not conventional, then you're going to get bashed type shit.
Exactly.
And it's exhausting. So all that to say, we asked our audience, should women live in pursuit of beauty? And 23% said yes, it's okay to want to be beautiful. And 77% said no, there's so much more to life. And I will say, like, maybe this is a reach, but I do think when people say there's so much more to life than being beautiful, it feels misogynistic to me.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me think of a girl that is a quote unquote try hard, and they're like, "Oh my God, like, she would be so much happier if she just stopped doing that." Like, and it's just like, but she's just a product of this very fucking society. Like, she's not really doing anything wrong. And so I just don't like that. I don't like when people say there's so much more to life to being beautiful. It's like, no fucking shit. And I acknowledge that I wrote this poll because this is a common rhetoric. Like, that's what people say. Like, you shouldn't, there's so much more, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, for people that are artists, for people that have an image, it's like, that is their life. That is their life. And should it be? I don't know. Like, because all these standards, it's like celebrities, they have to keep up with everything. Like, honestly, for celebrities, they have
Yeah.
to be in a pursuit of beauty of some sort.
Yeah.
And so I don't really know how I feel. I definitely am like, yes, it's okay to want to be beautiful for sure. Because I also think it's on some like unlearning sexism shit. It's like women were told like you need to be beautiful. That's all you're about. It's just a pretty face to look at. So we as women take that internally and make beauty something beautiful that we can be proud of and trying to move away from that. So
Yeah, because it's like a catch-22 where it's like you shouldn't want to try to be beautiful because then if you do, you're trying too hard. But if you don't, then society is going to be mad at you because you're not fitting into the standards that like you're supposed to. And like, I saw another TikTok yesterday. I was on TikTok for so fucking long, but there was this girl who she had gotten like her face stuff done. Like she got a nose job, like Botox. Like she was really fucking good at makeup. She had like a 10-minute video. I watched the whole thing of her doing her makeup.
Yeah, you did.
And like it was so like scientific. That was one of the fucking comments on the video because she was like, oh, like if I put this little like dark spot here, like this adds like a shadow, like this makes it look like that. Like I had never heard anyone talk about makeup in that way, but like she was a makeup artist and I was scrolling through
they're
her
chemists
feed.
or like scientists. Yeah.
Literally. Like I was scrolling through her feed because I was like, this is really cool. Like I've never heard someone like talk about makeup in this way. And she had a bunch of posts where she was like talking about how people hate on her for like wanting to like be beautiful and looking like this. And she was also queer. And it's also like you see a girl like her and I think our impulse is to think like, oh, she's trying too hard. She's appealing to the male gaze. She's doing all of these things. But this is just her hobby and her passion. And she likes to like play with looks and look at shadows and like do all of this stuff. So it's like, you know, you have the girl that I talked about before in the TikTok where it's like, oh, you're not fitting into these things. But then you have a girl who's fitting into the male gaze, but isn't even doing it for the male gaze. She's doing it because she wants to. And that's still not okay. So no matter what, you're fucked.
And I think that's what's missing from a lot of people's content is like, it's also just okay though. Like maybe she's not doing it for the male gaze. And it goes directly into our next, that we're going to talk about someone that I don't like at all.
Mm-hmm.
Her name's Lauren Chen, and she had a video in defense of the male gaze, women in the pursuit of beauty. So this is kind of like, she talks about some cultural changes, like between the 2010s and 2020s in terms of like people being pretty versus ugly in the mainstream. But we need to remember media literacy and who this person is. And Fiji taught me how to do this. But Lauren Chen has a lot of videos that are fucked up. Like her whole channel, you go to it, she's very openly not a feminist and like very so for conventional beauty. So just to give some context, I'm going to do a quick montage of just some things that she said.
Hollywood liberal tears. I had forgotten how tasty you were. Let's talk about how feminism has demonized motherhood to the point that it's now actually causing an existential crisis for Western society. Are you going to be cooking for him? Are you going to be cleaning for him? Are you going to be baking for him? But it's like, do you listen to yourselves or your fellow feminists? Because it absolutely is anti-family.
So basically, this woman's whole thing is she talks about how this mainstream feminist rejection of the male gaze caused the fat acceptance and body positive movement. She was like, we had a lot of appreciation and promotion of female beauty, but then there became a low point in 2018 to 2020. And she says actors were uglier than ever and plus size models and ad campaigns were being amplified. And she mentioned some people in the spotlight during this time, Kristen Stewart, Mindy Kaling, and Amy Schumer, and thinks that they're ugly. And then she was like, you know, it's not socially acceptable to be a beautiful feminine woman anymore. But she's like, now in 2024, it's more popular and trendy to embrace that sort of classic feminine beauty. There's a bunch. And then she talks about all these remakes of movies with noticeably different characters. And you could see the beauty standards. Like if you look at 2000s from Mean Girls versus the Mean Girls that came out, you know, now, she's like, the girls were so much prettier back then. And now it's like we have this new like mainstream ugliness. And then she argues feminists went way too hard trying to make women uglify themselves. But she's like, celebrities are starting to become more attractive again, like Sydney Sweeney, Sabrina Carpenter, and Madison Beer. All white women. she criticized Zendaya. She said, society tried to make Zendaya the most gorgeous celebrity, but she's like, I can't even get into that right now. And then I stopped watching. But all this to say, it's like, when we do think about the culture, it's like, she's basically saying that, feminists were angry about beauty standards, and then the body positive movement started, and then Hollywood had to adjust and be like, okay, we can't have conventionally attractive, pretty people anymore. But now we're slowly starting to get back into that. So it's just interesting to think about sort of like how it does happen in Hollywood, and how if there is a fat, positive movement, that Hollywood's going to mimic that. But she was talking about it like it's a horrible thing. And it's also like Kristen Stewart, gay, Mindy Kaling, Indian. Like, she's like shitting on marginalized groups,
Yeah.
And so it's just like, I don't know. And like, I think that she's a woman of color. I'm not 100% sure, but it's all just like very so confusing. But ultimately, she argues like, yes, women should live in pursuit of beauty, and rather they should embrace these feminine classic beauty types like the Sydney Sweeney white blonde. And if you're not going to do that, then get the fuck off the runway type shit. So it's just really scary. Like, she has 600,000 subscribers, babe. Like,
oh my God.
It's terrifying. And so
it is like, it's weird this time that we're in right now, because it feels like, Ozempic and like the thinness, we're coming back to like that era.
No!
And also like trad wives, like traditional homemaking, like white women and like blonde women, and like, that beauty standard, I think is returning in a lot of ways. And it's like, I don't know, because like when you have like Barbie and like shit like that, like I feel like it is okay. We had this weird feminist moment where it was like, you shouldn't want to be like pretty or like feminine and like all of those things, but like that's okay too. So like there should be space for that. But also like beauty is subjective, and like to say that like, oh, these people are ugly,
she
or
put
they don't
them
care
on the
about
screen.
Like,
that these people
insane.
are ugly. It was just
Kristen Stewart is so hot. Like,
I mean, she's obviously homophobic. Like, if you don't like Kristen, like, if you can't just acknowledge that. Anyways, it's just, and it's like that whole idea of like the trend coming back of classic feminine beauty. It's like, that's scary. It's like, we just want people to be beautiful in their own way. But she's not wrong in that sense of like Sydney Sweeney. Like, a lot of people do say like she's the epitome of like that Marilyn Monroe or whatever type of Hollywood beauty. I'll never forget.
And Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter. She's just like a young little, like, not, okay, I sounded creepy.
Like,
she's
feminine.
just like tiny, like very Dolly Parton.
Yeah, but that's even the thing. Like, I don't know what the right word is to describe these things, because sometimes it's like when we say classic feminine beauty, we know what we're talking about, but it's also very white supremacist, and it feels very, it just feels like fucked up because like even the idea of femininity, like even what's her name, the Algerian boxer at the Olympics that like just won. Did you see the stuff about that? Like, she is a cis woman that won this fight, and like everyone's freaking out because they think that she's fucking trans, and then it comes about like, oh, she's just got higher levels of testosterone, which is like, why are we even talking about this woman's fucking hormone breakdown? But that's the thing, like, I have endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, like my testosterone is higher than other women as well. And like, what is like femininity, what is estrogen, like what are all these things that are like, what does a woman look like? Like, she's a woman just as much as like you and I are Sydney Sweet. Like,
we've lost that as a society, because it's like, and it's the polar opposites, it's like it's not to, this is gonna sound so fucked up, but it's not to like amplify quote unquote ugly people. It's just to not even take that shit into consideration.
It's
like,
just
that
to have
shouldn't
more of a diverse pool of what a fucking woman looks like, you know? And in that is like trans women as well. Like, it's not just cis women, like, and men can be feminine too. Like, our idea of what is like beautiful, even how you were saying in the beginning, like, it's kind of weird that we don't call men like beautiful at all. And like, maybe we do need to like reconsider it. And it's funny because like sometimes when I'm hanging out with like some of my gay male friends, like the way that they talk about men and like being beautiful, it's like interesting to me because I'm like, oh, like they feel it, they see it, they whatever. And I'm like, that's kind of a nice thing. Like, I think we should bring back seeing like beauty in men.
Yeah.
Obviously not like the
'Cause I
bad,
think, like,
whatever.
Like a lot of gay men maybe aren't as afraid to say the words like I'm beautiful, whereas like a lot of straight men are so like choking on their masculinity. They don't want to be beautiful. They want to be
Yeah.
sexy or handsome or fucking, I don't know, muscle,
Yeah.
big boy. Like
Right.
So yeah, it's all tea, bitch. And so I really think this Lauren Chen, like, she's got a beauty obsession, like, for real, and not in the good way. But going back to Shane Spears' video, she talks about beauty obsession and this idea of beauty sickness. And when she says beauty sickness, what I thought of, it's like this disease where you just want to be beautiful. It's all consuming. It's hurting you. It's not like the fun type of style personality trait. It's more so like you are keeping up with these maintenance appointments, and like you wouldn't be caught dead going outside. Like if you needed to run outside to go get something, you would without makeup. But it's like,
Yeah.
if you literally can't leave your house without it,
Yeah.
like that's a big problem. But it's also not your fault, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so she talks about the idea is that if you're focusing on unlearning beauty culture, that you have to throw your heels and dresses in the garbage and light it to flames and just be that polar opposite. Say, forget about all of it.
Right.
But she argues it is possible to acknowledge your beauty sickness while also engaging in beauty, like with beauty and like different beauty routines. So you can know about what's going on in the culture and still post your makeup video because it's fun,
Yeah.
you know? Both
Exactly.
things can be true. So she really did go in on the duality and was one of the only people that I heard say that this conversation doesn't seek to villainize beauty, but rather turn our obsession with it down and acknowledge the beauty sickness of it all. Beauty obsession can be and is harmful, but beauty itself is not the enemy. And rather it becomes a problem when it's a need rather than a desire or a expression. And then a quote that she shared was, knowing better is not enough to protect you from the beauty ideal, not when so many other elements of your culture promise you that your happiness is bound to achieving that ideal. And then lastly, she says, beauty is at once something we must embody and openly criticize, or else we are a part of the problem, and somehow not the culture that enforces it. This conditioning is not something you can just switch off with media literacy and a course in feminism. And then she talks kind of about how like the times have changed. You know, back in the 2000s, it's like you see celebrities and these ideals in the media and on TV. Now it's like one of your friends posts a Now it's like one of your friends posts a fucking picture in their bedroom, like literally chilling, but looks fucking perfect. And maybe it's not a friend, it's just your everyday bitch. Like, we have so much more access to it all. But it's crazy that like that sentence really spoke to me. The beauty is at once something we must embody, but also openly criticize, because people want you to be beautiful. But you can't be like, oh, yeah, like I go to Sephora every single day, because then you're trying too hard. So you have to criticize the beauty standards, but also embody them. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, and we jump to criticize the makeup guru girlies. We jump to criticize the girl that got a BBL 3 times. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, they're not the ones that are... they're the ones, you know, maybe falling victim to this. And do the more people that get BBLs like affect the culture? Yes, but again, I still don't think these women are to blame for like setting a new standard, because they set a new standard within a culture that like literally needs these standards to thrive in the beauty industry and all of that.
Yeah, because it also like makes me think of like how important your own like relationship to these things is, and like journaling or thinking and reconsidering like why you're doing things. Like even like when I'm working out and like stuff like that, or trying to eat healthy, like I've been counting calories lately. Like sometimes I have to stop myself and be like, is this because I want to be thinner and I hate my body, or is this because I want to be healthier, or is this because like working out is good for my mental health? Like I don't know every day, and one day it could be because it's my mental health. And is that better than me wanting to be a little bit thinner? Like I don't fucking know. Like you're working it out in your own self all the time too, but beyond just yourself, you also have to consider what your first thought is when you see someone else. Like if
Yeah.
you see a girl that's a little bit heavier and you're working out to try to be like thinner, you should not think like, oh, like that's not attractive. Like you have to check yourself when you're looking at other people too.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it's so much to do at the same time, because it's like you can't, if you're just swiping on TikTok and you see a girl doing your makeup and you're feeling insecure about, you know, how you look and all of these things, it's easy to kind of like project that onto her and be like, oh, like she's trying too hard, she's doing too much, like whatever.
Right.
So it's like, it's both, you're managing like yourself, you're managing how you look at other people. And that's, I think, where it starts. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I used to be someone that did judge other people for how they looked, like genuinely, I'll be fucking honest. But now it's like, I literally don't do that fucking ever. Like, I literally look at everyone and I'm just like, damn, but I still don't feel that way within myself. And I've had to learn, like, I've had eating disorders before. Like, I've went to recovery programs, like, and it did change me, you know, and it took a while for me to learn that just because you want to lose weight doesn't mean you have like a fucking problem.
Right.
Because you have to almost convince yourself, no, like, I can eat whatever I want. I can't fall victim to this. Like, but it's like, you still have autonomy. Like, what if you genuinely do want to lose weight or gain weight? It's like, you should be able to do that without it being this big, deeper meaning. Because maybe it's just as simple as that, you know?
Because it's internalized shame.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, like I need to separate myself from the standard, and like this is fucked up, and I should be able to eat whatever I want, or I should be able to leave the house without makeup and all of those things. But then if you do that too much, it's also like, wait, no, like I would like to do these things. Like I do find enjoyment out of doing my makeup or fucking making a smoothie, instead of like I feel better when I drink a smoothie versus like Five Guys. Like, you know, like there's nuances to all this shit, and you have to like constantly like check yourself and be like, both can be true, and where is like the happy medium.
Yeah, because it really is the balance of like how you're feeling internally, and then also the external piece of how people are looking at you and how you're looking at them. Like it's all you know, when you walk into everyday society, it's like we all put on some sort of mask, you know? So it's like how you feel about beauty alone in your room can be very different than like how you engage in a crowd. Like it's very different. So next we're going to talk a little bit about plastic surgery and how that directly relates to reality TV. So we watched Madison Brown's video, When Trying to Be Beautiful Makes You Ugly. And she talks a lot about this sort of quote unquote natural beauty versus Botox beauty, shall we say. And she says people are starting to see the effects of surgeries. A lot of young women in their early 20s are looking a lot older because they're getting fillers that a 40-year-old would get. On Love Island, there were contestants that went viral, and the doctor was guessing, because the doctor was guessing their age and how much, what they had done and all of this again. Again, someone that literally is a plastic surgeon was like going on and talking about these women ages and being like, oh, that's so, it's like, bro, you literally do that. So let's watch that TikTok really quickly.
Guess their age.
Okay.
Guess if they're natural or not. And then say what you think they have done.
Okay.
Okay, so the first girl is Jess.
She's 38, lips, nose. Yeah, so obviously she had some work done, in my opinion.
This is Harriet.
42, yes. Cheeks, lips, nose, fake lashes, brows,
Okay, perfect.
Botox.
And then this is Nicole.
Are those two different photos of the same person?
Yes, they're one of those.
No, this is
Or
Nicole.
yes, yeah, they're the same person, but two different photos. This is like her on Instagram versus her like, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna look at a real photo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. She's 35, lips, veneers, Botox, maybe a little cheek filler.
Is Samantha.
32, lips, veneers, nose, cheeks.
Do you want to hear their
Botox.
ages just for fun?
Yeah.
Okay, so Samantha is 26.
Oh God.
And Nicole is 24.
Oh my God.
Harriet is 24.
Oh my God.
And then Jess is 25.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't watch this show. Maybe I should, but this is crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, plastic surgery and injectables done incorrectly can make you look older. So, boy, I was really off.
Okay, I'm gonna be like super real. I don't know how I feel about this because I have watched these videos from plastic surgeons and stuff before, and I kind of do find them interesting because I don't know why on my Instagram I've been coming across a lot too, like showing like it'll be like someone's face and then like what exactly they did to get that.
Yeah.
And like obviously this guy is like completely off, but like on one side I'm like it's a profession, like this is like what you do. It's kind of interesting to hear from an expert like what he thinks and what's not. And like I do think like within these beauty standards, one of the things that's scary to me is that there's a difference between like with everything, there's like levels to like the quality of like what you're getting. And I know someone personally, so do you, that went to get a BBL somewhere for cheaper and had it go wrong, like had it kind of backfire and it caused like a bunch of issues and stuff like that. So it's like I do feel like because it is like a profession that I'm not against people getting like plastic surgery or getting Botox or BBLs or any of those things. Like I do think it's kind of like important to still have like someone like who is doing that criticize the quality of the work because it educates people more about like how much you should be paying and what you should be getting and like all of those things, like how it's supposed to look versus how it's not, because at the end of the day it is somewhat of a medical-ish procedure, like you know, like you don't want to go to a nail salon and get like a disease in your nails, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like I get what the second woman, and I love her stuff, like we've used her before. Like, I love everything she says. And, like, it's a little iffy because it's kind of, like, along those lines of, like, okay, well, the plastic surgery industry does exist. Botox does exist. I think we should have people be able to have those professions and criticize, like, unfortunately, it's the work that is permanent on someone's face. But, like, similar to how a hairdresser would be like, oh, like, you just bleached your hair and now it's falling out. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be done because it's, like, bad for you, kind of, like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah, I think the way that they, like, how some people do it, like, the way that it's the woman on the screen and they're like, oh, it's, like, bad on her. But it's, like, I wish the direction was more like, oh, her surgeon really messed her up.
Right.
And it's not about, like, because it's just, like, it's weird. And I've seen a video on YouTube that was, like, all the work Sabrina Carpenter's have worked on. I love Sabrina Carpenter. I did click on the video. But I felt super, like, me personally, I did feel like it was, like, a huge picture of her face. And this person's, like, pointing to her nose and pointing to this cheek dimple. It felt violating to be watching that to me. But I do completely understand that, one, it's interesting. Two, yes, it all exists. And if you want to go get work done to your face, you need to know what the fuck you're doing. Because that's your face. That's not something to mess with. You know, you can go to McDonald's and get cheap food, but you don't want to get the cheap BBL. Like, your body and your face is not something to fuck around with. But I do feel, but maybe that's just, like, still, you know, unlearning misogyny. It's like I'm not able to look at that without seeing so much misogyny. But it's like, if that was a man's face, I'd be like, oh, what the fuck? You know, who gives a fuck that you're talking about that? I think it's just like, I just have this lens of like, oh, man, doctor, bad. He does things to women. And
because it's like, on one side, I'm like,
so I
think it's helpful when the plastic surgeon or whatever does that, like takes a famous person, because a lot of, like, I think it's misogynistic in interviews in a lot of ways for people to ask women like what you've gotten done or whatever, because it's a weird question.
That's my question.
But also, and like, there shouldn't be a stigma around it, first of all. And second of all, I think it's also important for us to be educated on Sabrina Carpenter was not born this way. Like, she doesn't wake up in the morning looking like that. And I think young girls need to know that, like, you know, there's like a cost. It's classism and stuff as well. Because for you to have like Botox that looks like you've never had it in your life or you've never paid for it, like, you're paying a premium price and you need to have access to those things.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of like the Instagram filters and like all of that stuff. I know Instagram and whatever parents are talking about social media and beauty standards, where it's kind of like, there needs to be like some sort of education, like even AI, like this photo was altered, like now they're adding this photo was face tuned, like things like that to images. And is it like, is it fucked up in some ways? Because then it's like embarrassing, but why is it embarrassing? Because there's a stigma. And like, so it's a little iffy. I mean, I do agree with her that for all of them to know the actual ages of these women and then like post it after is like a little bit like disrespectful like to those women. But I think it's also like, unfortunately with these things, like how else are you going to have the conversation without like examples of it? And I don't want to demonize these women or be like that they're so fucked up for being in the pursuit of beauty. Yeah. Or even like Madison Brown's title, like, you know, when beauty makes you ugly, like even calling them ugly, like that, it's like a little bit, oh my fucking God, the wind. But yeah, I do feel very like two ways about this because one, this is Love Island UK. So it's like the UK is different beauty standards than I think American beauty standards. Like the cast of Love Island US is completely different than the UK. So we're also engaging in a culture, at least in America, that we don't live in, where like beauty standards are different. But I don't know, there are costs to this shit. Just like stripping, like when we talk about like sex works in stripping, it's not helpful for us to just be like, everything about it is great and there's no consequences and like all of that stuff. Yeah. You know, but it's unfortunate when you have to use a person as an example. Yeah. And that's why it's weird.
And it sucks for me too, because I do have this lens of like, oh, well, if it was, like, what if that was a woman doctor? I think she would have still got villainized online, maybe even more. But to me, the fact that he's a man just makes me even more mad. I'm like, well, you don't have to deal with any of this shit because you don't have that standard on you, you know? But so I don't know. I think it's like there is a way to go about it. And I think we do need education. But I'm just like, it's off-putting because it is brand new. We've never experienced something like this before. Yeah. So, but more with Madison Brown's video real quick. She does talk about, you know, trying too hard. So it's like you have to be beautiful as a woman, but if you're caught trying too hard, it's almost as bad as being quote unquote ugly. She talks about beauty is currency, same thing where the beauty is power. Mm-hmm. And she's like, if you're not tipping the line correctly, you might be ridiculed because these women on Love Island UK got work done because they wanted to, because of beauty standards. And it's like, that's what society told them to do. They did it. They go on Love Island and everyone's like, oh my God, they look so old, you know? So it's like now noticeable filler isn't as cool, quote unquote, anymore. And everyone's mad at you because you got the thing that everyone said would make you more beautiful. So what the fuck? Like, it's twisted, and we're going to get into this idea of like a beauty pendulum and the trends, and they swing so fast, and it's like it's impossible to always be up with the trends and always look like that. So, you know, and that's just on unlearning societal beauty, because if you find your own beauty and live in a world where you just, you know, exist in that and try to block the other shit out, it's a lot easier, but it's, you know, damn near impossible when it's all around us.
Yeah. And especially that whole thing of like, you know, you're trying too hard and it's like, okay, you're supposed to get it. But then if you get it and it's obvious, then you shouldn't. And it brings me back to like how you said Sabrina Carpenter, because it's like what works about what she has done is that it's not noticeable. Like you can't tell. And that's also like class and access, you know, like she's getting like the best of the best out there to make, because the beauty standard is you should get it, but you shouldn't look like you got it. So it's like, I don't know. It's
crazy. And another video about this was done by Jordan Teresa entitled The Aftermath of the Instagram Face. So she echoes the same thing about how noticeable plastic surgery / injectables are on the downturn. It's not like no one should get them anymore, but it needs to be like completely fucking hidden, effortless. And she's like, society tells us to be on this pursuit of beauty constantly, but the second someone looks as if they tried or are actively trying, they're rejected and publicly humiliated. She argues that a lot of girls on reality TV are, you know, they try to make the girls seem as if they're trying too hard for beauty and fame. Like they did all of this work on their body to be on the show and to be on Love Island, when that's not really a requirement, but is it? Because everyone who was cast, a lot of people did have that. So she just kind of echoes the same thing. I really liked her video, and she does live in the UK.
She's
I'm
from the
pretty
UK,
sure.
yeah.
She
Yeah.
had this whole part on the video of like injectables in the UK because it is so different.
Yeah.
But I still think it's like, you know, that sort of when it comes to like a Netflix show, it's like Love Island in the UK is just as much watched here because that's where it all started. Like that was the original, I think.
And
so
the US
it transfers a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. The US Love Island used to be terrible, but this was the first season that was like
everyone's
good or
fucking
whatever.
loving it.
Yeah, people used to love the UK one more, but this season in particular was okay.
Yeah,
but
people went crazy.
So we asked our audience, how do you feel about many women in this generation choosing to get plastic surgery / injectables? And 62% of you guys said it's cool, but it causes a shift in the culture. 23% women can do whatever the fuck they want. And 15% said they don't need it. It's sad. And I don't know, like, I think I put women can do whatever the fuck they want. And, like, it's weird because this also, I remember what I was going to say before. I had forgotten. But, like, when you think about, like, Kylie Jenner and how she got, like, the lip injections.
We're going to get into her, yeah.
Okay, so should I wait?
Yeah, wait.
Okay, I'll wait. But, yeah, I think women should be able to do whatever they want. It is a little bit scary when you are a person that's like in the spotlight and you have an effect on the culture, and then like you're kind of how we were talking about the dating paranoia guru girlies and like what they should consider and who they're affecting and like all of that stuff. Like that's like a little bit different because your average person isn't the same as someone with a platform, but at the same time they're just human and they're on their own journey as well.
Right.
And like I don't know.
And the media literacy piece too, like that video with the doctor, like I didn't go to the page. I didn't Google the doctor to make sure he's legit. Like, I know it's not, but he could be fake and I would have fell for it. It's like that media literacy piece. Like, is he a legit plastic surgeon or just someone that has a shirt like that, you know?
Right.
So it's crazy the effect it can have depending on where you're at. But I don't know. I voted for it's cool, but it does cause a shift in the culture. I just feel like people need to be more honest about it because it's like this idea that it needs to be so hidden and it's like no one should know about it. That's what makes people feel like they're not good enough because they don't even know that you have that done. But also, should it be on you to fucking scream it from the rooftop? No. So it's just like so confusing. But I do want to drop some stats because it is true that like this generation has been getting more injectables than kind of in a long time or ever before. So this is an article from Forbes. It says the quest for eternal youth is as old as human civilization, with countless myths, stories, and quests centered around the elusive fountain of youth. However, unlike the alchemical pursuits of the past, today's anti-aging movement is grounded in the rigorous disciplines of science and technology. Globally, the anti-aging market was $62 billion in 2021, with expectations that it will increase to around $93 billion by 2027, according to Statista. The business of staying young is experiencing unprecedented growth. This booming sector is driven by a confluence of technological advancements, cultural shifts, and an aging global population increasingly willing to invest in products and services that promise to slow the signs of aging and enhance physical appearance. Treatments using toxins such as Botox and fillers increased by 41% from 2020 to 2021 in the US, with more than 5.5 million procedures conducted, according to research from the Aesthetic Society, an organization that tracks procedures. While the global Botox market was valued at $6.4 billion USD in 2022 and is expected to reach $15.2 billion by 2030. Cultural attitudes towards aging and beauty have also played a crucial role in the industry's expansion. There is a growing societal obsession with maintaining a youthful appearance, fueled in part by media and social media portrayals linking beauty and success to youthfulness. Many women may imitate their ideal media personality due to social, psychological, and practical rewards associated with this ideal and the belief that their life would change for the better. The rise of the self-care movement has further contributed to the industry's growth, with consumers increasingly viewing spending on beauty and anti-aging products as an investment in their well-being and self-esteem. overall, around 50% of US consumers now report wellness as a top priority in their day-to-day lives. This has broadened the beauty and anti-aging market, making it not just about vanity, but health, wellness, and personal fulfillment.
Yeah, this is a lot.
So I know I just kind of ripped through that because I thought it was all super important, but it's just like, you know, money doesn't lie. Like going from 60 billion to 90 billion in this market is crazy. And I do think people get wellness confused and self-care confused with these sort of products that are being marketing to us. Like we always talk about, you know, like should self-care and beauty be together? Like, I don't really know. Like, yes, I feel better when I wear makeup and all this shit, but like, I don't think like stressing over all of these fucking serums to remain youthful is like that fucking healthy. But it's like all of these 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds on TikTok, it's like their skincare routine is like 100 steps. When we were that age, no, the fuck it wasn't. Like, this is new. I used to wash my face, like, if I was lucky. Like,
same.
Now it's
Sleep
like
in
these
makeup.
children, they have skincare fridges, babe. Like, they maintain, and it's like, I know this was about plastic surgery, but that skincare is also about maintaining this youthfulness,
anti-aging,
beauty. And there was like this article about this woman who wore sunscreen on her face for 40 years, but not her neck. And her face looks stunning and her neck is wrinkles to fuck. And everyone's like, I need to put sunscreen on my neck. Like, it's just insane. And so I just feel like it's helpful for people that do like numbers to understand that, like, you know, we're not just making this shit up. Like, we're not just in a TikTok bubble of beauty. Like, this is having like effects on the country.
And I think it's like, it makes me think a lot about like, you know, that filter that went around on TikTok where it was like you in 50 years or whatever, and people were doing it and you looked like old and wrinkly. Like, I remember doing that and being like, oh my God, like
crazy.
I need to stop smoking cigarettes, like whatever. But it's like, I think like our culture, our media, our society has always had a fucking problem. And I was thinking about this as you're reading, like with aging, and I'm like, on one side, it's like, okay, people are living longer now than they ever have in the past. And we also have Instagram and social media and all these things where we're seeing people being active like well into their age. But also the fucking industry, particularly for women, because we see men aging well and it's fine. We see men getting old, like George Clooney, he's still fucking sexy, like Morgan Freeman, like he's still daddy. Like, we see these men getting old and they're still esteemed, they're still sexy, they're still whatever. But when it comes to women, that's not a thing. And then you also got to think about how predatory the industry is and how like we love to put like young women, like preteen girls on like a pedestal and a standard of beauty. And then that made me also think about how like OnlyFans creators, like there's such a thing of girls being like, oh, it's my 18th birthday, like sign up for my OnlyFans. And then also even just being on TikTok, like I remember, because I have a couple friends, like I have a good portion of my friend group that is like 22 and I'm 26, right? So like there's a 4-year age gap between us. Like my body, I think, is very different than a lot of them in the sense of like they're still young, like their frontal lobe hasn't developed, like their hips aren't as like full, like all of those things. And like sometimes I've compared myself to them, or even girls that I see doing TikTok dances, like wearing fits on TikTok, and I'm like, these girls are literally like 20, like they're 19, they're 20, they're 22, like they are not yet women. And like I've realized how my like body standard of what I think is beautiful and like face, all that, and women is different as I get older, because it's more about like, you know, who else is around you, you're the same age, like all of that stuff. But I think our culture, like our media, does not like to see women over the age of fucking 25 being pretty, you know, like we don't like to see it.
Dude, it's so bad. And that's why it's like all those like shows and everything, it's like even if they're, you know, older, younger, it's like they keep them as young as they, oh wait, no, it's the opposite, they make them older.
Well, exactly. So I was actually talking to, this was like a couple months ago, I was with two of my friends and they were talking about it, and I didn't even clock this, didn't even think about it, but they were talking about like Cinderella Story and like all those Disney Channel movies like back in the day, where it was
young
like
as hell.
They were like 14.
15.
And the guy was like 26
Yep.
and almost all of them. And it's insane because like
All of them.
to them to have a movie about like young adults in college, in high school, out of college, whatever, like to be like at all, like even that age was too old looking. It was fine for the men, but the girls had to be younger. And that's why I think Sex and the City was such a big thing, because it was, you know, women in their 30s being single and being like fun, and Carrie would dress up and wear like fashion and like whatever, but they still very much, you know, thin beauty standard white women.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But like it is crazy when you think about like when you look at people's ages, especially when we were growing up, like these girls are 14 playing a 26-year-old. Like we're never gonna look like that when we're fucking 26. Like
I know. And that's why I do feel like a lot of women have that irrational fear of like getting older, because it's like once you turn 30, like that's it. Bro,
Yeah.
and this is so crazy, but my first girlfriend, when we were in Europe, our teacher instructor had a close relationship with my girlfriend at the time.
yeah.
And they like had some like, she was like, oh, she's down. Like it was like a funny joke. But like
Yeah.
she actually was, and this woman was like older, okay?
Yeah.
Like she had gray hair, like type shit. Core memory, we were walking, there was a reflection. I stopped to look in the mirror. I fixed my hair like in the window.
Yeah.
She literally looked at me and she was like, you know, beauty's not going to be there forever. Like you need
Who
to
said
find
that to you?
the instructor, like the professor at the abroad program I was doing. And I was like it's crazy though, because I feel like older women like have this, they become envious because
Yes,
of
they
the societal
definitely
impact,
do.
which
Yes.
just like polarizes us like as a whole. But yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
And I think that is a really big thing that we don't even talk about that much, but it's like, it makes sense, and you can't even always blame like the older women, because
You
women
can't.
are fucking like cut out of society.
And they
not
had
seen-
it worse. They had it worse.
And their husbands are like we know
Or in a
we were
different way.
strippers. They're
Yeah.
going to like young women. They have a young mistress. They have a young like whatever. Like it's just so sad how like
Yeah,
we
and-
throw women away.
Bro, and it's so crazy because when my ex-boyfriend got with that woman that was like around his age, like she was early 30s, like I was always like, I'm young, like I don't give a fuck, like you're like da da da, like I'm free still, like I still have time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and like I was like making fun of her for that, and like
Yeah.
being ageist in that sense, and like existing within the patriarchy, being like, oh well, you're 30s, like he's not gonna want you, and then like I'll be 28 and like ready.
Yeah.
And it's like so, and I caught myself doing that in the time I was so angry that I just did it.
Yeah.
But like reflecting back on that whole situation, I'm like, wow, like I really was like, I thought she was worse than me just because of her age. Like I'm
Yeah.
younger, so I win. And that's going to be really scary when I'm the 32-year-old, you know? So it's just like, I want to get the fuck away from that.
Yeah,
Like,
and we-
run.
We talk about that, like, my friend group, like, when we go out and stuff sometimes, because there's, like, a group of guys that are, like, the same age as me, like, a little bit older, and it's always, like, whatever new 21, 22-year-old girl that comes onto the
Exhausting.
scene, like, you know, and from us, like, being 26, 27, 28, like, sometimes it's, like, annoying to be like, oh, my God, of course, like, they're always gonna go after, like, the young, like, hippie, hoppy, blah, 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 but it's,
She's
like, I
had
was
less
her.
bodies.
Right, like I was her at some point too, and like it doesn't help to hate on her because honestly, like she's kind of like a fucking victim in this. Like it's not predatory in the
real.
sense that like, you know, like none of these guys are like bad people necessarily. I mean, there are guys in the scene that like are and will prey on like younger girls kind
Yeah,
of
like,
thing, but
yeah.
it is consensual. But like also you're not realizing like when you're younger how you're going to be manipulated by like an older man, like you know, like that
Bro.
stuff. But it's like it's pushing instead of like having the older girls be like cool with the younger girls and like dropping some knowledge in like a loving fucking way.
Yeah.
It's just like, she's young and dumb, like she doesn't get it, and also fuck him for wanting to be with, like, you know?
Right, but it's also like in high school it's like all about the older boys because they like prey
Yes.
on you in that weird fucking way. Like you're
Yep.
young, you're innocent, but you in turn like you can feel that they really fuck with you, and
Yes.
you maybe can't pinpoint it's because you're young, but
Yep.
it's like, oh, you get so much validation, whereas like the guys in my grade were like fucking mean to me, like thought I was
Yeah.
the loser, but the
Yeah.
older guys who were like praying, like they were like they, you know, fucked with me hard. So it's like the cycle just continues.
Yeah.
But I love that. That was great conversation. Let's move into, so now we're going to talk about the double bind of beauty and sort of this allure of effortlessness. And I got this from Jordan Teresa's video. I found this creator that talks about the bind of beauty. So let's see what he has to say.
Talk about the Love Island girls and the double bind of beauty. So I'm not watching Love Island this season, but I am on this app, and I can't help but notice these types of posts where these girls, please, they do not look their ages at all. Love Island contestants look old. Am I supposed to believe these women are in their 20s? And the search is Love Island contestants looking old. This girl's mom thought that this girl was 70. If a stranger can tell you have lip filler or Botox, that means it doesn't look good, I fear. And I just wanted to talk about this sociologically because obviously I'm not a woman and I'm not going to like contribute my opinion as to whether these women look good or not. But I do think that it's interesting to think about the double bind of beauty in the sense that when you think about our society, right, which is very hierarchical, which is very structured in a way where the pursuit of beauty is like rewarded, right? Like on here, we have the clean girls and we have all of these girls in their tiny little outfits and their tiny little bodies and their beautiful hair like slicked back, right? There's a very specific type of beauty that is often rewarded on this app and in society, right? Which is stuff that we all know and we don't need to like talk about. But I think that it gets to this point where I think a lot of other creators have talked about this, and I know that my mutual Pretty Critical is always talking about beauty and she's great, follow her. There is this idea that if you want it too bad, or if you're seen trying, when I talk about charisma and I talk about celebrities, I always talk about the theater kid thing, where if you want it too bad, it like repulses people, right? People can tell, they like smell the desperation and it like immediately repels them. And that's speaking about personality wise. But I do think that there is this thing that happens in beauty where if you are seen as trying too hard for the pursuit of beauty, right? Like through fillers or Botox or hair extensions or like the actual pursuit and practice of femininity, then you are also deemed a societal outcast. And it's interesting because you get situations like this where this girl is like 5'9", she's beautiful, she's societally beautiful, right? Like she's considered societally beautiful because she's like white and tall and has like long, beautiful hair and has, but like because she wanted to be beautiful so badly and like froze her face with like fillers or whatever she did. I obviously don't know, I'm not her doctor, but like whatever she did to her face has now made people actually turn on her, where because she wanted it so badly and she was like practicing femininity so hard, or like the pursuit of beauty, she's being punished for it, right? Where now everyone on the internet is like, oh, looks old. And it's so mind-boggling when you think about the way that like so many different ways that women are punished for being women, right? And like this, I fear, is another example of it. Like I'm not stating my opinion about whether she looks good or not. I'm just pointing out the societal fact that because we tell people the most important thing you have in your entire life is to be young and skinny and beautiful, and like the pursuit of beauty is the most important thing you can ever do with your life, right? A certain segment of the population obviously internalizes this, right? Like I live in New York, I've been to LA, I'm on Instagram, like I see what it does to people. I watch reality TV, I watch Vanderpump Rules, I watch Love Island, like I've seen all of the iterations. I watch The Bachelor, where you can actually see how it becomes normalized that more and more young people have like a lot of work done. And so I think that there is something happening in our society where people are like, the only thing that I can do to like be deemed societally attractive is to like get shit done to my face. And like now it's actually going the other way around, where it's like, well, you wanted it too bad and now you're ugly and now you have to suffer. Like it's so interesting to look at from the outside, but it is actually sad for these girls. And at the end of the day, because I know how this app is, I'm not like going out on a limb and like defending these like white women who will make a lot of money as Instagram influencers. That's not my point at all. I'm just saying, like I always do, I pretend that I'm your sociology 101 professor. Think about why these women would do this to their faces, right? And then think about everything that we inherit as a society, and think about like some people are psychologically stronger than others, right? Not everyone internalizes every single message, but a lot of people do, right? Like think about that before you get on TikTok and start bullying these girls for getting filler.
So I love this TikTok and I love this creator. I've been seeing like more of their videos.
I've
and
seen,
I really
I've
fuck with
seen them like everywhere, dude.
Yeah.
But I've never, yeah.
They're coming up. Like they have like really great sociological takes, whatever. But the whole idea, because we kind of talked about it before, but of like trying to be beautiful but not trying too hard and like not looking like you're trying and like all of that stuff, it connects so perfectly to me with this whole demure thing that's going on right now. Have you seen all of this stuff? Okay,
on like every meme ever.
It seems like it just like popped up like, and it's immediately a huge thing. And
Wait, I had to look it up. I forget what the word means. What does it mean?
Yeah, so I actually just looked at, so the word itself, demure, means reserved, modest, affectedly modest, reserved, or serious, coy, and it can also be an adverb like demurely, but pretty much like modest.
Mysterious girl?
Yeah, like modest. Like you're not trying too hard. Like you're coy, you're, you know, whatever. So that's the actual meaning. But I feel like it's taken on this new meaning with the creator that made the first video. It was just them being kind of funny with their makeup done, and they're like very modest, very demure, very mindful, very cutesy. And I've been seeing all these like hot takes on demure, and I was honestly trying to think of an episode like around it because it's such a fucking moment right now. But people are saying that it's in direct opposition to like the whole brat summer idea, which is just being like reckless in yourself and like not giving a fuck and like da-da-da. And like because demure means, and it's like in the word, it means like modest and like not trying too hard. So it's about like being cutesy and mindful and demure without like, you know, without trying too much, versus like brat is more about being like messy and like chaotic and like whatever. Like, so we're kind of going back to this like modesty. And I like the use of the word. I think it's cute. I think it's funny when it's in a like sarcastic, satirical way.
Like comedic, yeah.
Yeah, like when you're like, oh, like that's so demure, but you're like kind of kidding. But I do think society right now is trying to be demure in the sense of like we want to be like modest and beautiful and feminine and all of these things, but not look like we're trying. Like that is the word that pretty much like describes it, you know?
I like the chaotic brat summer and
same. Like I'm way more that. That's like the meme that I posted. It's like that common meme where it's all the little stick figures and they're like ripping things apart and it's like bloody and it's like girls right after being demure and mindful, because it's like, you know, like you have to actually put effort into like trying to be like, you're not putting effort and be like more subtle and feminine. Bro. Like it's not.
Yeah, but I feel like everyone feels differently and there should be like space for both. Like if that is what's like, okay, with the vitamin water, I love that flavor, kiwi strawberry.
Right, so good.
It's like, you know, if you want to be modest and you want to do this like I'm not trying thing, like I don't think it's detrimental, but I think like people like should not be shamed for like wanting to try hard, you know, like and all of that at all, because it's like, and maybe they're not even trying that hard. Like maybe she really just bad. Like I don't, and maybe she's really just bad.
Right. And that's why I liked like the brat summer vibe, where it's kind of like about being like more bold and being insecure and being like a little bit messy and being hot, but like
that's like
whatever, that kind of stuff. And I had also seen, I keep bringing up shit I've seen on fucking TikTok, but I guess this shit goes so deep. But it was one of my friends' story. They posted a screenshot of a TikTok and it was like words, and it was like, you know, I love like messed up lashes, like wigs with the lace showing, like all these like efforts of beauty. I forget what the actual like quote was. I screenshotted it, but like these acts of like trying to be beautiful that aren't quite hitting the standard or the mark, because it's kind of like beautiful in itself that we're all flawed and we're all trying.
Yeah.
And I feel like this plastic surgery stuff, like it's kind of the same thing. Like we're like so repulsed on it because it's like, oh shit, like you're really trying to be beautiful and you're not meeting the mark. So like, haha. But like if she had gotten that Botox filler and looked more like fucking Sabrina Carpenter, who we keep going back to, we would be like, oh my God, great job. Like, and not even pay attention to what it took.
Go back and get as much as she needs. Like this, it's like these injectables require upkeep. It's not a one and done. So if you're not at Kardashian level, like you cannot afford to like continue that, you know? And the part that really spoke to me, because like the only time I was like ever entertaining the idea of getting work done is when I was a stripper and when I was dating a fucking idiot. Yeah. But then once I got out of that, I was like, oh no. I don't want that. So I feel like those are not the messages that get me, you know, like about the getting the work done as much anymore. But it's like, think about people like they don't have the tools, or they're more susceptible for whatever reason, and then they're getting blamed for doing it. It's like, it really is sad, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I love how he was like, you know, women are just punished for everything. And I'm afraid, you know, this being beautiful is too, but it's like, it's not the right type of beautiful, or it faded. It doesn't look, you don't look beautiful anymore. It's exhausting. But more on this idea of like the trends swinging and the beauty pendulum going over here. We want clean girl natural to like back in 2000s. Like we want caked on, like makeup.
And we want,
all
or even
that
demure
shit.
brat.
This, I want us to watch this TikTok as well.
When I had lip filler, I got comments every single day making fun of me for the fact that I have lip filler. Now that I don't have lip filler, and I got a lot of it dissolved, I get comments telling me to get lip filler. This is the reality being a woman. A woman ages naturally, she looks like shit. A woman doesn't age naturally and she like does some cosmetic things to age better. She shouldn't have done those things. Like, when will we be just left alone? Okay? If you guys tell me to do like my eyeliner differently, then it's like, okay, that's maybe, sure, I can do my eyeliner differently. But all of the people pushing me one way or the other in terms of something like my hair color or injecting shit into my face or whatever, or commenting on the way their bodies look, like, that's so much more personal than an eyeliner. And so much more of an investment and a risk to just change. So maybe when it comes to stuff like that, we just keep our opinions to ourselves. Is that fair?
Yeah, this is exactly it, because it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, and everybody has a fucking opinion. But it, like, I don't know what, we just tried to off camera figure out what TikTok this is in response to, but on the computer it's weird, whatever. But it makes me think of that trend that's going around right now where it's like, what are my blindnesses? Like, what can I do to make myself fucking prettier? And it's like, this person is posting it asking, you know, and some of it has been like, cute, cool, whatever. Like, I saw one girl post it in her gym outfit and she was like, okay, how do I look like I actually go to the gym? Like, I know this is like a weird outfit, and people were helping her, and like she looked like, you know, more like athletic. It flattered her body more, like she felt good after. And some people same with their makeup stuff. But you also open up that fucking can of worms where everybody's like, oh no, you should do this, you should do that. And how do we feel like, how do we want that? Like, it's a little scary to ask the internet what you should do to change yourself, and it's also scary how people think that they can just tell you what to do to change yourself even if you didn't
You're not
ask.
asking. Yeah, because I feel like, you know, 10 years ago or whatever, it really would have been just like the eyeliner or the hair or the whatever. But it's like the injectables, like it is like a new thing that's like been on the rise and has had like peaks and valleys, and now it's turned into something hidden that you can't be able to tell, but you should definitely fucking have it. So it's like, that's a new thing added, like just another note to the culture. It's like, that's another thing we have to worry about now. And just a quick note, like we were talking about at the beginning, you know, how you feel about beauty internally is different than how the world sees you and how you see other people, and that external piece, and more about how beauty is power and like using your beauty to maybe get certain things or to have people take you more seriously. And so that same New York Times article, there's a quote that we liked that said, in a chapter that describes what she later calls the tricks of conventional femininity, Whitefield Madrano writes, the truth is, I dearly protect the truths of artifice because revelation feels too risky. The threat that we feel as women judged superficially by men is real. One defense is to remain always ahead, always imagining oneself through the eyes of an observer. In anticipation of how others see us, we ask ourselves, do I look good? Do I feel safe? The writer Arabelle Siccardi wrote of beauty as a patriarchal invention in the online journal Matter, an insecure divide between men and women, a violent one. So that is, you know, demonizing beauty in a certain sense, but it's also, it is kind of accurate because it's like, even to be taken seriously, like in a job interview, like you want to make sure you shower and like have the right hair. You don't like have the right outfit. Your hair is not wet. Like it's ready. Like, cause that is going to be seen as taken seriously. But it's like, and this episode isn't about pretty privilege, but it's hard not to talk about beauty without the privilege and all of it. So it's like, is it sort of a defense mechanism where it's like, well, I just, want to be taken seriously today, or I don't want to be shamed for how I look, so let me try to beautify myself for this specific event,
Yeah.
So it's just so complex, everything.
And it's weird when you think about like men in the patriarchy and all of that stuff too, because I think a lot of times like we look at women trying to be beautiful and we're like, oh, they're appealing to the male gaze, like they're pick-me's, like all of those things. But there's also that line, like especially like me being in a corporate space, like I'm always hyper conscious of like when I have to get dressed up to go to like a business conference or like an event or whatever, like I need to be presentable and attractive, but like modest enough where I'm not too pretty, because then it's distracting from like the work and like that type of stuff. And it also makes me think about like men, even like the guy that I was just talking about, that I was just seeing, who's like, oh no, you don't need that, da 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 da. But it's like the patriarchy in a lot of senses has like created this standard where like women need to do it, but now we reclaimed it in certain ways, and now men are like, oh, don't do it. So it's confusing, because it's like, if you're trying to look pretty to appeal to men or not to, that's not okay. But then if you're not, like, it's swinging, and you're stuck.
And this is a new stance I have on the pick me, but I think it's incredibly misogynistic, honestly.
Same.
I think everything about it is, I didn't used to feel this way, now I do. So I don't know what I've said in the past.
Same.
But I really do think, like, to criticize the pick-me or criticize pick-me behavior, it falls very much into trying too hard to get a male's attention and not being modest and just getting it because you're beautiful.
Right.
And so I'm like, this whole thing about the pick-me, I'm like having a moment where I'm like, it's not good.
The pick-me, it's like,
you're just
on
punished,
one
you're
side,
policing women.
Exactly. And it's like, on one side, I've heard the pick-me described a lot as like the girl that watches football, the girl that drinks beer, the girl that doesn't wear makeup. But then it's also, people will call you a pick-me if you're like trying too hard to be like pretty for men and do all of these things and be more feminine. So it's like, no matter what you do, someone is going to call you a pick-me, because like the patriarchy is so complex and so fucked up that like, you can't win.
And what are you supposed to do? It's like, you're in this patriarchy that is like, we do need to go to the male gaze. And so it's like, maybe she does like football, but if she's not, like, you're really punishing her and making fun of her just because she is victim of the patriarchy. It's like, she wants, and this is all so heteronormative. It's like, it just
and
makes
we also
me sad.
think like everything that women do, it's making, by calling people pick-me's, it's like everything that they're doing is because of a man, when she could just like football, she could just like doing her makeup, she could just like drinking beer.
It's still centering men hard.
Exactly. It's centering men completely, when it's like you're supposedly criticizing her in her own internalized misogyny, but you're being an internalized misogynist as well. So
because it's like the pick me thing also, it's like with the I'm not like other girls. And I'm not like other girls is also super misogynistic. So you have two misogynies like at play with that one.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's a tricky situation. But let's move on to who is to blame, which is my favorite section of the outline. We're going to take these YouTubers and what they kind of think and then draw our own conclusions. But to kick it off, we want to share this poll. We asked our audience, why are we always in pursuit of beauty, other than the fact that society cultures tells us we should be? 54% said to hide insecurities, 38% said for my confidence, 8% said the trends, and 0% said for potential partners. So I think it's interesting that 8% said the trends. We always kind of have that, like, oh, let's fall back on social media. It's the trends' fault. Yeah. But we're the one doing the trends, like the actual people. TikTok is not making up Clean Girl. Like, humans made up Clean Girl. Right. And TikTok was a tool to make it go viral. Yeah. So I don't know. I think, why are we always in a pursuit of beauty? I mean, it's definitely confidence for sure. To hide insecurities, I don't know. Like, I think it is, but I think it's more about confidence for me personally.
Yeah, and I feel like they're like so interconnected, but they're also very different, because it's like, when I think about hiding insecurities, the biggest one I can think about is like, oh, I'm going to wear like one of those star pimple patches to hide a fucking pimple. And that's like in pursuit of beauty, and like that's something that I'm going to do. But like, usually when I think about beauty and why I'm doing it, it is for confidence. And it's like that inner feeling of like, oh, like, I guess I am adhering to the trends. I guess I'm hiding my insecurities. Like, they're all kind of connected, but I feel more confident right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think I was also just in such a higher pursuit of beauty when I was dating a man and I was stripping. Like, it's actually crazy. Like, it's changed so much. And it's like being a stripper in pursuit of beauty, it's like arguably like not like a celebrity, but it's like that is your job to like have this, you know? It's crazy. Going back to Shan's video, she says TikTok is definitely not to blame for this. She said it's not enough to critique the influencers and marketers who have been essentially conditioned this way. And then she notes that, you know, obviously there's a level of knowing when enough is enough, and it is on us to think about these things critically and understand that these beauty standards and this beauty sickness going around does affect everyone, like about, you know, knowing your audience and the things you say matter. Through the media, we're shown that beautiful people live the best lives. They have money, they have friends, they have relationships, great family. And then quote unquote ugly people are shown to be suffering in some way. How are we not supposed to internalize that? You know, it's like the ugly person's sad, you know, and the other, how are we supposed to watch that and just not associate beauty with happiness, you know? And she says it's easy to blame the internet. We have so much more easy access to these beauty ads, influencers, trends, because it's always right there. Back in the day, it was magazines and TV and news, but that's it. And then lastly, she argues that there is a system to blame that goes beyond TikTok girlies, because TikTok is just a byproduct created by a culture that will continue to exist and evolve into new mediums. TikTok won't always be at the top of the list, but beauty sickness definitely will. How willing are we to zoom into the source of the actual problem? Because TikTok, it won't be around forever. Right now, it's really popular. Yeah. It's like, you know, driving a lot of careers. It's super successful. But at the end of the day, it is just a byproduct of the society that already existed and was like waiting for this moment to have more beauty ads and all that shit.
Yeah, it's so interesting, like, the last question, like, are we willing to zoom into the source of the problem? Because, like, the source of the problem is within us, I think, and then it's also in the greater society. And how do you realistically fix that? You know, is it regulations on social media? Is it education? Is it therapy? Like, I don't really know.
Exactly. I mean, who the fuck, like, I'm not Mother Teresa. Like,
right,
how
exactly.
are we supposed to know? Like,
right.
But I think thinking critically about all of it is fucking huge. And just like talking to people about this shit, breaking it down, like, it's not so scary. Like, just break that wall. Like, okay, we all spent so much time, like, putting on makeup. Like, let's just acknowledge that we just went through all this to go out. Like, I don't know, just like speaking about it. And then with Jordan Teresa's video, she's like, so who's left to pay the price all of this? Is it plastic surgeons? Is it the young woman that invests so much money? Or is it Kylie Jenner? Which we're going to get into. And Madison Brown also talked about Kylie Jenner as well. And so basically, there was a viral video of Kylie on her show talking about, you know, she was crying, like the ugly. Okay, I'm sorry. There was a picture that went viral of her. I didn't even think it was ugly. Like, I literally just said that because it's like ugly picture of Kylie Jenner is like a search term on TikTok. Yeah. Because there was this one picture, this one red carpet, and everyone was like, oh shit, she's not looking right anymore. You know, the Botox is Botoxing. We can all see everything. So people are mad because her and her family are the ones that set that standard so high. And I'm going to talk what Madison Brown had to say about this. But basically, Madison said, like, she profited off this beauty standard and she gaslit everyone that she was like, I've never had work done ever before in my life. And she was literally making money off of these lies. Why should we be wiping your tears away when you're feeling the effects that we've all felt for so long? Like, that's people's argument. And Madison personally, she's like, I blame Kris Jenner. Kylie started getting those procedures before 18 years old. It's not like her mom was like, no, don't get the BBL. No, don't, you know, do the lips. Don't get the filler. She was like, okay, I'll drive you there right fucking now. So before we get into our thoughts, just kind of some more on how people are feeling about Kylie Jenner in this moment. Let's watch this TikTok.
Was Kylie Jenner crying when she saw the impression she made on 13-year-old girls who were sucking on shot glasses to get big lips like hers, only to be sent to the hospital with sometimes permanent damage? No, she said, don't do that. Just buy my lip kit. That's how I got my lips so big, because she violently gaslit an entire generation into thinking she didn't get any surgery, and the results were by a product that she made, while she laughed all the way to the bank. I saw the clip of her crying over the ugly photo, and the only thing I could think of is, indirectly or directly, you have capitalized, made an entire career off of that feeling. You sitting there on the couch feeling like that is how an entire generation of women felt and thought they had to be like you and buy your products and do this and that. That's the only reason you made money, and you expect us to feel bad for you? The most annoying thing about that clip is Kendall Jenner with her armchair psychology. Well, everybody's dehumanizing us. That's why this is happening. Poor us. They're dehumanizing you because you don't act like human half the time. I mean, some of the stuff your family has done just to get on top, what was the point of that clip? Like, I don't watch the show and I don't plan on it, but like, was it to make viewers feel bad for Kylie Jenner? Was it for Kendall Jenner to gaslight and dismiss an entire audience? I really don't fucking get it.
I don't know. And like, this is maybe like, I need to like figure out how I feel about this whole thing, because I'm like, do I think Kylie Jenner is like fucked up for like this and all of it, you know? Because in a lot of ways they also appropriated like Black women's styles and like aesthetics and like all of these things, like big lips. Right, like big lips were only cool when Kylie Jenner had them, but like Black women who have had naturally bigger lips, like it wasn't okay until a white woman has them, and
maybe that was an insecurity for them too,
right, exactly.
You know?
And it's like, but the weird thing about, and I don't want to like make excuses for them, because at the end of the day, like they're very rich, powerful fucking family, but like, similar to how we talked about Tana Mojo in the other video, like she was so young when she started, and so was Kylie Jenner. And like, I know the whole story about her creating the lip kit was like she was made fun of for her lips or her big lips or something. And so like she decided her small lips. So she decided to like fix that insecurity and capitalize off of it, similar to Kim Kardashian with the sex tape, and then she reclaimed it by like being naked and being sexy and like all of this stuff. And like, I think the one thing that I have admired about the Kardashian family is how they're able to turn those insecurities, whether they're dealing with it in the right way or not, because it's not like Kylie was like, oh, I love my thin lips and I'm like profiting and accepting that. It's like, oh, let me like change them and change the beauty standard to appeal to it and like profit off my insecurities. But like even when you just think about the culture, like before it was like People, tabloid magazines, where it was like, oh, this star gained so much weight, look at them now, like before and after, like they look so ugly, them in a bikini, like now we have like ugly picture of Kylie Jenner surfaces, like, oh, this is how she really looks due to all this stuff. Like I think they, as much as they're driving the culture because they're in the spotlight, they are victims to like what the culture is telling them so much. And she was so young, and a lot of it is like Kris Jenner too.
Yeah.
So I think it's so much more complex. Like I don't want to put Kylie Jenner on a pedestal and be like, she is God, in the sense of like she manipulated all of these young girls. Does she have a responsibility as a creator and someone in the public eye? And should she probably have been real about what she got done to not make all these girls like feel but she was, I genuinely do think she was acting in that way because she didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Like at that time, like she was insecure about her lips. She created this thing, and she was, I think she thought, as much as she was profiting off of it, like I think she thought that she was helping people.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it right, but I think it's nuance, you know?
I think like my opinions changed from when I first saw this TikTok, because when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, like honestly, like the lip, because the lip kit, I don't want to make Kylie Jenner God either, but the lip kit movement was huge. And it still is. Like the lip filler shit, like that really did kind of low key come from her. Mm-hmm. But I agree. Are we really blaming her for like wanting to get the plastic surgery but having it be hidden? Isn't that what everyone is saying is like the highest trend right now?
Because she would have been demonized.
She would have been demonized either way. And I do like think that we think about, even though she is like a Nepo whatever, a
Nepo
baby, she's rich. Yeah, it's like she was a kid. And so it's like, is it the mother to blame? I guess a little bit more, but I still don't think it's enough to blame Kylie Jenner or other big celebrities that have set beauty standards, because to be famous, you have to have a certain beauty standard anyway. And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I do think the part about her like lying for so long, I'm like, first of all, though, just because she's lying, like, are you guys blind? Like, I feel like we all deep down knew.
We
though.
knew.
So
We
it
knew.
like if, but then it's like what that TikToker said, you know, not everyone thinks about it that much, and they really did believe her, and they really thought, if I get this lip kit, and
Yeah.
I don't want to shame anyone for that because that's super real, but like
Yeah.
me personally, it's like you can tell, like, she looked different. She's famous,
And that's
like
media
it's not
literacy
hard
too,
to make
right?
the connection, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like looking up to Kylie Jenner that would be like wrong in my opinion, because she was just a kid. Like, again, her family does sketchy ass shit
Yeah.
all the fucking time. But I agree, and I don't think like people are demonizing her so hard, and it's just more misogyny. It's like, okay, she made a mistake, you know? It's like, fuck, like she
And it's
made
like-
a mistake.
It
Yeah.
makes me think of like Britney Spears too, because it's like Britney Spears was also young in the public eye, like conventionally attractive, like skinny white woman, blonde hair, and she was doing all these sexy music videos, sexy shit, and the media was telling her like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, like this is bad for young girls, like whatever. And she's doing it because she feels like she's supposed to, like whatever. And then we see her shave her head in the public eye, and we see her crumble, and we're like, oh, we want that. Like, we want to tear a woman down because we're like, oh, you're adhering to this shit. Like, you're in this fucked up position where like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, but you're also influencing all these people, and we like love you and we hate you and we want to see you fucking crumble. And you see her like shave her head and not want to be conventionally
Right.
beautiful, like be in the public eye anymore. And then we're like, you know, people were making a joke out of her for so long, like so happy to see that happen. Similar to how we're happy to see Kylie Jenner look ugly
Right.
with like her face. But then it's like, then it comes 10 years later when she gets out of the conservatorship that we're all like, oh, now we feel bad. You know,
Right.
like we need to get there before the effects of this shit happens, because like this is still a fucking human being.
Right.
And they're dealing with pressures that we probably can't even fathom.
That's what I was gonna say. It is so different for famous people. Like, we have all these beauty standards, but at the end of the day, it's like no one's watching us. And even these TikTokers that have like, you know, thousands and thousands of followers, they have no idea what it's
Yeah.
like. And especially for Kylie Jenner, she had no fucking choice. She was born and she was on TV. And it's like Britney
Yeah.
Spears, like, yes, it's like you have this social responsibility, but is it possible to do that, especially at a time where
When
they were
you're
coming
growing
up
up?
to
Yeah.
be socially responsible at that age? Like, we don't put that on young girls that are just, you know, not famous. And it's
Yeah.
like you put so much pressure on them, and it's like we really don't know. Like, for them,
And we
it's
want
like
to see them fall. Like, look at like even Whitney Houston or like Amy Winehouse or all of these like great stars that became like victims of like addiction or like their family or like money and stuff. Like, we only like to like actually engage with what the fuck was going on when they're dead or
It's too
when
late.
they have a conservative or something, you know? So it's like, why do we love to consume a tragedy and then reflect on
Right.
it? But while it's happening in front of us, we're like contributing to it, and we're just
Right.
like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, fuck them, fuck them.
because we don't get it. It's like there's so many classes above us. It's like it's hard for us to humanize them because we can't even imagine what their life is like,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's like, that's Kendall Jenner's like, they're dehumanizing us. It's like, well, girl, like, you're not dehumanizing, but you're on such another level. I could never relate to you. You could never
Right.
relate to me. Like, it's like we look, and famous people do that on purpose. It's like
Yeah.
they want to be unknowable, kind of. It's
Yeah.
like we're never really gonna know them, and that's why they're stars. Like, that's why we put them up there. But at the end of the day, it's like they're just human beings too,
Yeah. And
and they
I
have
don't-
pressures we don't.
Right. And I don't think that's to say like we shouldn't like hold them responsible for certain things, and we shouldn't like ask more of them like with the big influence that they have. But I think like the way that we do it, like we need to have like some sort of grace, and like, you know, if it's a creator that is not listening to their fans or to their audience, and like the people that do have actual like care, like, you know, I think it should be a back and forth. But like you're saying, like the gap is so fucking big that we don't see them as human, and I don't think that's like completely their fault.
Right.
But I don't know.
And it's not even like we're defending Kylie Jenner. We're just making the point that it's like within this society, like it's not always easy to do the right thing when it comes to this beauty shit. And she's probably having some defense mechanism by not telling people, like, this is my secret. I got work done because I know I'm going to be fucking bashed. So it's just like, it's so
and
hard.
And the one thing about the Kardashians too, that like, they're so controversial and like all this shit, like I don't want to like stick up for them and say that there's shit that's like not wrong with them. But I think
there's so much wrong with them.
There's so much wrong
duality
with them.
People.
But they did usher in this era that we're seeing, I think, of being like real about shit as it's happening and as it's going on, and not later when someone's dead or in a documentary like 20 years after, you know? And I think we're not used to that. Like, we're not used to people like be reflecting on the past like 2 years in front of us in real time. Like, we almost want them to deal with that shit in private and like wait until it's like that sob story. So it's like, I kind of like them for that. I don't think they're right all the time, and they're profiting off of it at the end of the day. And their lives are not as real as they try to make it seem. Like, there's such a fucking gap. But, like, the realness that has come out of that, like, I think they were the leaders in that. Yeah. In this, like, vlog era. Like, even Julia Fox is, like, very, like, real with, like, a lot of shit. And I think, like, in a more, quote-unquote, genuine way that's less, like, manufactured than the Kardashians. But, like, I think that is a good, like, Kylie Jenner saying that, I think, ultimately is better than her not saying anything at all.
Saying what? Like, when she got upset and, like, cried?
Like a little bit, because it's like, you know, at least she's acknowledging.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about.
At least she's acknowledging that, like, hey, I did this thing, and like, hey, this is weird, and I feel like weird about it, and like, this is something that I'm like, whatever. And versus if she just kept going and like never took accountability or never really like
and
considered.
She said, and she was like, now that I have a daughter, like, I think about if Stormi wanted to get that done, it would make me feel so sad for her. It's like, she's coming to more conclusions because she's a mom now, you know? And I just think like the Kardashians, like you said, like with race and like with like not giving back and like classism, they're the top 1%, whatever. But when it comes to beauty standards, and they're so often blamed, and it's like, yes, a lot of it is their fault, and they should, but I'm at a point where like, okay, so like, I want to talk about who do we think is to blame. And mine's like society, patriarchy. But this listener submitted a story that said, society doesn't make you do anything. We are society. We are creating the toxic environment. And I somewhat do agree with that, because who made the Kardashians famous? I'll wait.
Right.
Everyone else. Like, they got, you know what I mean? It's like, we're the ones that like the pictures of the conventional beauty. Like,
or love to hate them.
That raise up Sydney Sweeney. Like, you know, it's like, it doesn't just happen like that. Like, yes, we're in a patriarchy. Yes, it's easier for people to make it to the top like that. But at the end of the day, like, overall society is pushing that up. Like, we're not helping anything by, like, giving the Kardashians all these views. Because the reality is we are. We're liking.
Right. And then it's like we play an active role in it, but then also like we're just ants in the greater scheme of everything the fuck else.
Right.
So it's like, it's just, I don't know who the fuck is to blame. Like, I think it's just like, I think it's our responsibility to continuously like learn about history and culture and take like a nuanced view of things, to continue to like question why we think these things and why we like these things or hate these things or all of that.
Yeah.
And I think if more people did that, like collectively, if that was a bigger part of like education, if everyone kind of like thought twice, what's the second thought, like you said that one time, like I think that would eventually make things better. But like the reality, unfortunately, is that it's not gonna change. Like, it's gonna take a while. Like, we're living in this culture that is constantly progressing, and we can only hope, like Kylie Jenner is reconsidering like what she did. She can only instill this shit in her daughter and hope that she does this more. And like, whatever. So it's like a cycle. I don't know.
The answer is not to pair it with more misogynistic views, you know,
Yeah.
and to demonize beautiful people. And, you know, like that sounds like such a weird thing to say, but it's like, you know, we hate them. We love them. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So this last section of this episode is going to be about the correlations between Botox and relationships. So Fiji found this article on Dazed, all about has Botox killed eroticism, and there was also a reel to go with it as well. So we're going to play that.
Botox be killing romance and eroticism? There's actually a really strong case for not getting Botox for the sake of your relationships. So why are most of the Botox concerns online still physical? There's a study that shows that emotional perception can become significantly impaired with Botox, and another that links it to reduced empathy. Beauty culture critic Jessica DeFino says this is because the beauty industry sells an aesthetic pursuit devoid of real human attraction. It brings back the ideas in this article because in the past we used to want to be hot for other people, but now we want to meet the standard of an invisible other. Instead of viewing our bodies as vehicles for pleasure, we look at them as investments to be optimized. Some people that get Botox compare it to living in emotional jail, and others say that people around them thought that they were angry at them. Once they stopped getting treatments, they noticed that people started to react to them better. This all doesn't mean that you have to be anti-Botox, but it's worth asking yourself if you're willing to compromise your face-to-face interactions. Is it worth it? What do you think?
And we wanted to go to the comment section as well. So someone said, cause and effect may be confused in this case. Did you think that most part of Botox consumers may be individuals with narcissistic psychotype? So they had violations in emotional sphere before using Botox. Like, okay. Someone said, who did this? Science. Stop policing our bodily autonomy. Someone said, on the inverse, there are some preliminary studies that show it can help regulate emotions in people that have depression. For me, the treatment is therapeutic in nature, meaning like getting Botox is therapeutic for this person. And this last person said, every highly effective person who got Botox Dysport that I've known has loved not having their every emotion on display. So you know, you think of like this stereotypical, like in a movie, someone with a lot of Botox and they can't really move their face, they can't talk, and the viewer laughs at them, ha ha ha, they're so silly, blah blah blah. But it's just interesting. It's like to connect plastic surgery to love and relationships. And like, are you able to show your true emotions with so much chemical and fillers in your face? Like, it's just a weird question. But I didn't really think about that. So we're going to read some of the article. But do you have any initial thoughts?
Yeah. One thing from the reel that really stuck out to me is when she said, you know, like our bodies are vehicles of pleasure versus like, I think she said systems to be optimized or something like that. And
to be invested in.
To be invested in, yes. And I think like that is something that I've been thinking about like more lately, because I think pleasure and like I'd even seen this fucking TikTok about flirting and play, but like those types of human things I feel like are gone right now as much. Like we're all performing and we're all masking and we're all doing all this stuff. And like that is kind of sad to me, because it also made me think of like way back when I was in high school. I knew a couple that was in high school and they were rich, and the guy had paid for his girlfriend to get her tits done. And I remember being at a party and
in high school,
crazy, right? And I remember being at a party and him saying that he wishes she hadn't, because they're like harder now and he doesn't like playing with them as much, which is like an insane thing to say, right? But it's also like, that's so crazy to think about, because I've heard a lot of the same shit about girls with BBLs, like even them saying themselves that like it feels weird and like you can't sit down for like a long period of time, like the recovery and everything like that, and like sex and like it doesn't jiggle as much, or like all of those things. Like there is like,
and your pussy gets a lot tighter with a BBL.
Yeah, you're getting like these modifications, but they're like, I don't know, is it like making us less human? Is it like that Uglies movie that's about to come out about
so
that bug?
Excited,
like, I'm
because
so excited.
I love Joey King so much.
I don't know who that is. I just know the book.
Yeah, it's because it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be said, but yeah, I'm super excited for that, and I think that is like because it's based on a novel, and I think a lot of people are worried it's not going to do justice, because you know how it is.
It was a good book.
If you love the book and then the movie, it is kind of nervous. Like, I don't want this to ruin it, but I haven't read the book, so I'm going into it new. But I think it's obviously a huge commentary on society, and it's like no question that it's being made into a movie right now during this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let me read a little bit of the article. So it says, it's actually quite common for people to become obsessed with fixing their appearance to the point of losing sight of what they look like. This is known as perception drift and is a phenomenon that can happen as people undergo new cosmetic procedures and their self-perception shifts. Even though we might question why someone would want to completely alter the way they look with these procedures, many psychologists recognize perception drift as a very real form of body dysmorphia. Psychologically, there are many reasons why someone might begin to lose sense of their appearance. Focusing too much on negative thoughts of yourself is what psychologists refer to as cognitive biases, or the spiraling thinking that can distort our perception of ourselves. Perception drift occurs when our looks become so altered that we begin to forget what we originally looked like. This is extremely common in the case of cosmetic surgery. When patients become especially critical of their looks, they'll stop at nothing to change them. Because after you fix the quote-unquote one thing you dislike about yourself, it seems like tons of other things start to make themselves known. Perception drift literally distorts the way we see ourselves, and the perceived flaws we once didn't even notice become another box to tick off. After one successful cosmetic procedure, the possibilities for improvement can begin to seem endless. Once patients begin having procedures, they receive this positive feedback where they look and feel better, so they seek out more ways to keep feeling this way, says cosmetic surgeon Dr. Chidester.
Okay, I already feel like I have so much to say about this. That's
really? Because I'm like, this is a little too smart for me right now.
Okay, I have a couple things. So, like, one, the perception drift. I really like that term.
Me too. I knew you would like that.
It's fire, and it makes me think a lot about like all these memes I've been seeing going around, which makes me get excited for when we post memes, because I'm like, I kind of know what we're gonna post.
You have so many. Yeah,
I have so many, but a lot that I see are like girls when they're perceived, and hating the feeling of being perceived, like performing versus like being, and all of that stuff. And then also like, one, we hate being perceived, but then also we love to like, you'd love to have someone tell you about yourself from their view, like, oh, just tell me like what you think of me.
Yeah,
and, like what you think I look like.
What was your first impression?
Love to hear that. Yeah, because we're so in our heads that hearing it from someone else is kind of like, oh my God, like that's a reality check. Like that's
crazy,
like cool.
Right?
Like I want to see how I appear to other people. So that is just like super interesting, like how we love to be perceived and how we don't. But also this whole idea of like, you know, constantly fixing one thing and then continuing after to the next thing and then noticing the next thing. It's like, I don't think this is like different in anything else. Like, you know, when you think about success, even like people say like, oh, they want to hit their first million, and then they hit their first million and it's not enough. And then they want to go do this. And like same with like working out, like you lift this many pounds. No, you want to keep going, you know? So I think it's like, it's always this like constant pursuit of the next thing, because like if we don't have a next thing to go after, like what are we even doing, and how
what
would am different?
I? It's like,
right, you can never just be like happy in the moment, or like we should be, but we aren't. Like we always want to go after that next thing. So I don't know, like I get it, and I don't know, like it's so tricky, because I'm like, people should do whatever the fuck they want at the end of the day, but like body dysmorphia and like perception of yourself and losing sight of yourself, like that's a scary thing. But also like, I don't know, like the whole concept of you not realizing that it looks bad is still in the context of what society thinks looks good and bad. So like if it looks good to you but looks bad to other people, does that even fucking matter?
Yeah. And I guess like my hope for people, you know, listening right now, it's like, I hope the days of like shaming women with noticeable Botox is over, because I think that we can agree it's like, yes, the more people that get BBLs, and I've even said this in past episodes, I'm like, the more people that get BBLs, the rest of us feel like we, need one.
Yeah.
And then it's like we said, news comes out, oh, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And you're like, oh, well, thank God I didn't fall into that societal pressure.
Yeah, you get enjoyment out of it. Like, I've had that in Atlanta where I've seen girls with BBLs and I'm like, oh, like, it doesn't look good. And then I'm like low-key happy because I don't want to have to feel like I need a BBL. But that's fucked up too.
And the woman my ex left me for, I sent a picture to you and you were like, oh my God, like her BBL looks crazy. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, it's horrible.
We get enjoyment. And it's like, I'm thinking even for our listeners, because it's like in this context of us having this podcast and going through this research, it's so easy. It's easier to be like, this is how we should be. This is what we do. But the second we like end this episode and go back to our daily lives, like, it is so
I'm
hard.
like, bitch, I need to look good tonight. I need to lose weight before I come to Atlanta. Like, I'm literally thinking that because I'm going to be in Atlanta. Like,
right. Like, we go back to those same thoughts. But, like, I love your whole second thought thing. Like, I feel like that's like
my therapist.
An easy thing to, like, implement or try to.
Yeah.
You know?
But, yeah, it's just crazy. And I think it's really hit me after this episode, too, like, how much injectables and plastic surgery really is just like on fucking trend right now. Because in the 2000s, it was like, just don't eat. And now it's like, you have to eat, but like your body needs to be proportionate. And like, it's just, I don't know. I'm exhausted with all of it. But we're going to wrap up the episode now. And I want us to think about these questions in mind. If you're new here, at the end of every episode, we do a wrap-up segment where we talk about what we're so wet, so dry, and still maybe a little bit confused about the topic because, as you guys know, we don't have all the answers. We just come on here trying to figure it out. So to keep these questions in mind, is it possible to be in a quote-unquote healthy pursuit of beauty? Can you be in this pursuit of beauty within, you know, our judgmental, critical, fucking sexist, you name it, culture? And is it possible to really unlearn this pursuit of beauty as a woman? So,
okay, so like what I'm so wet about in all of this, I think kind of answers the first question of, is it possible to be in a healthy pursuit of beauty? Because I think that it is, and I want to believe that it is. And I think that like we're all on our own individual journeys, and like we need to have like more grace with ourselves and have less like shame about like not doing something too much, like all of that stuff. So like I think it does motivate me to like think that that is possible and like unlearning all of these things, and that it's also like okay to want to be pretty, and I'm not a pick me for that, and I'm not like have a bunch of internalized misogyny.
And even if I was a pick me, fuck it.
Right, it's fine. Like it doesn't fucking matter. So I'm wet about that. Like I'm wet, though, also in a lot of ways how my life, I've become less in pursuit of beauty as I've gotten older, I think. Like, I think it distracts from my life a lot less than it used to. Like how I talk about in college, like not going to class unless I felt like I looked like perfect by my definition at that time. And like, I was so depressed during that time and so like painfully insecure in a lot of ways. So I think that's where it stems from. Like sometimes it's like, it wasn't necessarily right for me to start with the like, oh, I need to get dressed. It was more starting with my mental health. Yeah. And then everything else flows, like not fixating on that as much. So like, I don't know. Overall, I'm wet about that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I really relate to that. Like definitely same. Like, and if you're like a, 20, 21-year-old woman, like it definitely gets a lot better when you get to 26, 25. Yeah. Like, I think you just figure yourself out more, and maybe you're still, wanting to be beautiful, but it's less society's definition of beautiful as you get older because you're learning what you actually like and what makes you happy. But I am wet about my evolving views because I really do think I was the first to kind of come at the makeup girlies on TikTok or like Kylie Jenner or just like blame things that it's just kind of pairing it with more misogyny, it's like I don't want to blame other women that are just kind of dealing with the same sort of things, like they're just figuring it out and maybe they deal with it in different ways. So the part about who's to blame, like I feel good about blaming the patriarchy, but also blaming us, myself, and the greater society for enabling these views to continue, Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like I said, all of our likes and comments and shares are power. Like we as humans make things go viral, and social media is just a tool for us to get us there. And if TikTok got lost tomorrow, I promise you something else
It's
would
still gonna
replace
exist.
it.
Yeah.
It's not TikTok. It's just like that is what is the tool that's being used right now. So, and I am dry about a lot of the beauty content online, but I'm wet at least that people are talking about it and talking about how so we're beauty obsessed. But again, I think a lot of time it's paired with misogyny. It's like, what's wrong with these women? Like, why are they so obsessed with beauty? It's like, I don't know, because they exist and watch TV and are online. Like, how could you not be, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wet about.
Yeah. I think what I'm dry about, and I just thought of this while you were saying that, like, that I meant to say in the perception drift thing. Like, I'm kind of dry about that and, like, the whole, like, Love Island thing. And I feel, like, mixed ways about that, so maybe it's more confused. But, like, I'm also dry when I think about, like, in ways like my perception of myself. Like, I always use like TikTok, Instagram filters, and I feel like I don't feel good taking a selfie of my face, like showing as much without the filters. And that's a weird feeling. And I feel like there's also a lot of pushback against that, where girls are like, you know, get rid of these filters, don't do it, like da 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 da. And it's like,
just natural, clean girl, no filter. Right.
But when I like deep it and I'm like, think about that negative backlash, it makes me feel worse when like so it's like, should I stop using the filters and feel bad about using them, or should I like keep using them and being like, fuck that, it's okay to like want to use this filter? Like,
it makes me
I'm a
feel
little
good. I look
dry.
good in it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's more where I'm at, is like the filter is fucking okay, like let me just use it.
Because it's
but
on
like,
being perceived. Like, you want people to look at you this way. And it's like, we didn't really talk about this too much, but I did see a YouTube video that's like, you know, everyone thinks, oh, natural beauty's in. Like, we're praising clean girl, no filter. But it's like, we're actually just praising, like, great genetics. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you're not praising people that are out here natural, but they're not conventionally attractive.
It's right
only
natural.
If you're, like, you know, just lucky that you happen to fall under those societal standards, which, again, is, like, thin white woman with long hair, whatever the fuck. Like, and so if you don't fall into that, like, no one's praising your naturalness at all. So it's not natural beauty. It's just, it's still the same thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm dry about it all. It really sucks. And I hate like a lot of the content out there about beauty. I think it's steering people in the wrong direction. But again, I think it's better to say something and at least start to think critically about it. Rather than do nothing. And I'm obviously so dry about Lauren Chen that we shared in the beginning. Like, I fucking hate her, bro. Hate her.
Yeah. Very toxic shit to be spreading. Confused, I guess I'm confused about the ways in which it's possible to unlearn this stuff. Like, even though I said in the beginning, like, I'm wet about like being on that journey too, kind of like, I think it gets so confusing when you're like, you put it into all these perspectives where you're like, I can only control myself and I can only like do this to unlearn it by myself, but then you have to deal with greater society, and like, am I unlearning it in the right way? Or am I going too far, and like, what the fuck is the balance and all of that? All of that like space to be in when you're unlearning things or you're trying to change something is like just such a fucking confusing place to be in, because the rest of the world is still turning and still operating, and like, you're still getting influences all the fucking time that you're not even thinking about. So it's
never gonna be perfect. It can't be. It can't be.
Yeah, but that was
it. Yeah, it's like we only have control over so much. It's like, if you like move to like fairyland and live in the woods, it's like you can really create your own reality type shit. But it's like, unfortunately, again, it's like how we view it internally. And I feel like we're getting the internal shit down, but it's the external piece. And like, we didn't even talk about this, but I am confused because sometimes I feel like when I'm in a relationship, like, I feel more pressure to be beautiful because I want them to be like, oh, she still has the same beauty she had when I met her. Yeah. So, like, I feel like a lot of people, they let themselves, like, go in relationships, quote unquote, which is so misogynistic, but y'all know what I mean. But, like, for me, it literally is the opposite. Like, I let myself go when I'm single because I'm like, so then it's like, who are you really doing it for then, Autumn? You know? Like, that's what I get you. I hate the way I said my name like that. But that's where I get confused. But it's a big conversation, and we definitely want to talk more about like makeup oppression in the future, or pretty and ugly privilege, but it was too much to get into one episode. So if either of those ideas spark your interest, we definitely will have that coming in the future. But that brings us to the end. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments below. As we said in the beginning, we would really appreciate it if you subscribe or follow, depending on the platform. On YouTube, you can like us, you can share, you can comment, subscribe. On Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you can rate. You can do a written review on Apple, which would be amazing. If you do that, email us so we know about it. We would appreciate that so much. And yeah, we post polls every episode. So we're going to be posting polls every week for the indefinite future about episodes. So make sure you're following us there so you can submit a story, a question, connect with us, participate in the polls. We'd love to have you.
Yes, and we do also have listener support. It's through our Spotify, but no matter what platform you guys are listening, it is in the bottom of the description of every single episode. It's 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. It is the only way to financially support us. So if you fuck with our content, that 99 cents goes a long way. It's good for our confidence, all of those things.
I know y'all have it.
Come on, 99 cents, like please. But yeah, we love you guys so much, and we will catch you in the next episode.
Bye.
Put a finger down if the way that you found out your ex cheated on you was because he was trying to prove that he was so loyal that he did a screen recording of all his text messages.
Put a finger down if at 21 years old you found out that your father wasn't your biological father and that one of your family members is blackmailing your family into telling you this.
Put a finger down if when you were 16, a boy that you were talking to invited you over to his house.
Put a finger down if after your damn near 3-year-long relationship you were talking to a couple guys on Hinge. So the first guy that you were talking to, he goes to school in South Carolina 2.5 hours away from you, and the other guy you were talking to only goes to school an hour away from you in Virginia. So one night you got bored and you texted both of them, hey, what are you doing, can I come over? And whoever responded first, you drove to see them. So the guy in Virginia responded first.